Oh, sorry, wrong camera. I just realised you're up there.
Hello.
So we can fly helicopters, but when it comes to the technical stuff of computers and things, no. So my laptop's down here, but the camera's up there. We just had a bit of a change round for today. Well, thanks for joining us online. There'll probably be a few. Can you hear us okay, first of all?
Yep.
Marvelous.
3:35, yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't already know, ta-da, this is Amanda. If you've spoken to her, never seen her, this is what she looks like. She is real. Yeah. If she's not AI or anything along those lines, no, you're real, definitely.
I know.
And you've been doing it for a little while now, haven't you?
Yes, 23 years.
23, literally flies by.
I know. I've spent more time in air traffic than I have.
Got it in there, sorry.
Had to be done. But no, yeah.
You spent more years doing air traffic than
I haven't, so yeah.
Yeah? Righty.
Who knew I could hold down a
Everybody's
proper
now
job?
quickly trying to work that out.
Figure out how old I am. Yeah.
Yeah, we've known each other for quite a while now, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
Either or, just on the radio.
Again, Paul's a voice I recognise. We were saying this. There's some people, there's voices you recognise that check in, whether it be rotary or sort of the inbounds to the airfield. You recognise voices, and Paul's now one. He doesn't have to say the registration, just the opening Luton radar. I've got you.
Means I can't get away with anything. God, there's no hide. Yeah. I've tried to put the transponder on standby and all sorts of things.
I've already seen you.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Yes, it's the thing. You know, if you've been doing it, and you've been on Luton, etc., for 20.
So
Luton straight away, was it? Or
Essex Radar, as it was formerly called. Essex Radar was my first sector. I've been doing Essex, now known as Stansted Radar, for 21 years. And Luton Radar for 19, so I apologise to anyone who's put up with me for that long. So yes, I've been doing it a while.
Yes, I probably would have spoken to you in the early days then, from being out of Cranfield, because we didn't.
Of course, yeah.
Our default was well back in back in the early days. Our default out of Cranfield, because we tended to go north rather than south into that area of just north of Cranfield, would have been really to stay on Cranfield, because there wasn't anybody particularly to talk to out there.
There's no real sort of radar system.
No, because we're the other side of Luton, therefore, you know, that wasn't a default of, let's quickly talk to Luton. The airspace was quite high.
Yeah.
And then Farmer Radar came about, or the Lars with Farmer Radar, so we started to default to those. But we did used to do quite a few Luton transits and all those sorts of things. Stansted, from Cranfield, we didn't used to go that much over towards Stansted, but we'd sort of, you know, badger them for a transit. And I have to admit, in the early days, please don't tell me off for this, but Luton was always known as the friendly ones, without a doubt. Stansted, you're lucky if you got his own transit, because they were really busy.
Yeah.
You know, Luton was, in comparison, relatively, well, certainly had big quiet periods.
Yes.
But far more friendly. And I think it was, go back a bit now, I think it was Luton that, as far as I can make out, spearheaded the initiative of trying to get people to talk, especially with the Cranfield PFA. Do you remember the Popular Flying Association rally? So I think it was once a year in July.
Yeah.
They would meet up at Cranfield, and this was lots of possibly home-built aircraft and all sorts of things would all descend upon Cranfield on a weekend, and there'll be hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And these are people that maybe don't fly very often, perhaps once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Terrified of talking to controlled airspace. The very thing we were talking about.
Yeah.
And so the infringements were off the roof.
Yeah.
Because they're coming in from all directions, all skimming, crossing through Luton, but back then, in those days, it was considered very scary talking to air traffic controllers or Luton Stansted or anywhere like that. But I'm sure Luton put out the initiative of saying, so I could just about remember the document. Please talk to us over this weekend. We'd rather you talk to us than not.
Yeah, totally.
And next thing you know, there was very few infringements.
It makes a difference. There's different airspace infringement teams for different airfields. They all work with the local airfields to try and have a chat. Are there any hotspots? Is there anything we can improve? And again, you said like fly-ins, like when you're having to Duxford, again, it's making people aware of who they can talk to that we're there, and just talk to us. We can help you. We are there to help. We're not there to make things less fun for you. I promise. I do promise. So yeah.
So who knows what RT actually stands for?
I'm not going to put my hand up.
Because hopefully nearly everybody got their hand up. All right, let's do it the other way. Who doesn't understand what RT stands for? Yay! Thank you, Harry. Well done. Yes, that's the first hurdle. Just it is radio telephony. So remember, so Harry sitting over here, he's very new to flying. He's had one lesson with us so far, and he's already hooked in helicopters. And one of the really important things in learning is just to admit what you don't know.
Yes.
You're not expected to know everything, and we still don't after many, many years. So straight away, if you don't know something, just say so. The worst thing to do is sit there quietly and think, oh gosh, I hope I can work it out eventually. Just say so. It's as simple as that. So radio telephony, and it's really, for the most part, about using the radio at the end of the day. And it's not difficult. It's just talk to a person like possibly Amanda or one of the FISOs up here, or it could be somebody literally with a handheld radio in the field. There's many different versions of it, but that's it. It's just talking to somebody, really. But of course, there's a relatively strict procedure to it, isn't there?
There's various formats and that have to be followed and procedures to follow.
Ranging from possibly at a not necessarily, but I'm going to use this stereotypism, or stereotypical view, a small little tiny private airstrip, the radio might be a little less professional than air traffic control, but it doesn't mean to say that at all. But that's the kind of analogy, isn't it?
It's a different.
You might go from somewhere where there isn't anybody operating radio, so the pilots have to talk to one another in the air to coordinate, maybe on safety comm, to flying through one of the controlled airspaces. The radio telephony. So why? I'll ask a few questions and then we'll sort of everybody else can start picking poor Amanda's brains for the next couple of hours. Yeah. So why does it need to be fairly strict in its process or procedures? Anybody? Ideally, somebody that's not sure will answer, because the ones of us that really know exactly why it's fairly obvious. But Harry, you're going to get it, and I'm so sorry. Harry, why do you think procedures need to be fairly strict on the radio?
Air accidents are bad.
Yes, of course. Yes, right. Potentially. Yeah, that's right. Miscommunication could, have a catastrophic effect without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah. Why else? Lane, yes.
Keep everyone safe.
Yeah, absolutely. To help ensure, help keep us safe. Definitely. Dylan just stuck his hand up. Why else does it need to be fairly? I am saying fairly strict. I should obviously say strict, but I want to try and also paint this as it's not that scary.
I'm guessing because you can't get.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, good. And that's got to be one of the, not the biggest thing, but that's one of the biggest things. What if Amanda, what happens if we all try and talk on the radio at the same time? What do you hear?
So I normally get like a background squeal. You can sometimes pick up the first call sign. You can hear one transmission slightly louder than the other, but it's just a complete garble of people, numbers. And then as one comes off the transmit switch, you'll just hear the last bit of the last transmission, at which point the other aircraft's gone, oh, hello, there was someone else there. So at which point I come in station calling Luton radar, for example, 2 stations at once. And I believe it was Easy 123 or Rhino 123 or Golf Hotel Zulu pass the message. So if I've heard the first part of one call sign, I will go in and ask them, then I'll come and say other station, say again. But it's normally an absolute garble of squealing and numbers that come through.
It's bad enough in a room of people and everybody talks, but on the radio, it can be a complete mess, can't it? It's horrendous. You can't, sometimes when airborne, we can't even hear what's being said because, as you say, it's just a squeal or.
So I don't know what you get if you transmit at the same time. Do you actually get any sort of feedback?
During the transmission? No, we wouldn't know. Yeah, literally, and it does happen. Happens.
That's interesting.
If it's busy,
afterwards you might hear just like
the last part of someone else.
Or sometimes the students, when they transmit, you just for a split second hear something else on the radio. Think, I think somebody's transmitting at the same time. Let go, and then suddenly you can hear the other transmission.
Yeah.
Or like Dylan just said, they finish transmitting and there's just a little something at the end.
Yeah.
And then there's a silence.
Who's going? Because sometimes I've done it. I've started transmitting as someone's called outbound or someone's called for transit. And when I transmit, sometimes I don't hear anybody else. It's not selective hearing. It's just sometimes it's like my transmission is the one that will overall everybody. And if we stop together, then there is that kind of stunned silence of, well, why is that person not responding? But because we've crossed, then we don't know. So then there's a few seconds and I'll think, okay, because I've not had a read back, I will then go in again with my instruction and then hopefully the other person will say, "Oh, sorry, I believe we crossed." But sometimes if another crew on frequency hear the two coming together, they'll come in and say blocked. So that is also another thing, that another air crew have heard this happen and they'll just go blocked. So everyone now knows that no one heard the last transmission.
I don't know, I've not heard it before, so that's something new for me.
It happens
So somebody that's not been transmitting heard that there's clearly been a crossover, and is that all? They just say blocked?
Yeah, blocked. Like a busy session into Stansted or Luton, again, we've all come into, or two stations are coming together. A third station has heard that and they'll just go blocked. Perfect.
I'll listen out for that.
So
no, I can't say I've ever.
You can just come in to go blocked, even if you weren't a part of it. Blocked.
But that's all they would say. That
they'll just go blocked. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say I've. That's useful to know.
And I don't believe that's standard phraseology, but that's something that has just become known, and you kind of pick up as you go along.
That's good, because we it's so helpful if we're harping on about it, this is a really good point. Quite often when ATC, say two at once.
Yes.
They say the two that are transmitting, then like, shall I go? I'll give the other one a second, and then I'll transmit, and they do the same thing, and literally you transmit again at the same time, and then next year you'll say two at once.
It's like holding the door for someone. Do you both go through together, kind of thing? So you are waiting.
You're trying to be courteous. So I quite often jump straight in, figuring the other ones will probably wait. So I'm immediately straight in hope for the best.
Sometimes I go 2 stations at once. One was me. It's my go. Again, not standard phraseology, but everyone now knows there were 2, and I'm going to with the instruction I need to give, all depending on if I've got traffic going to go through the localizer, do I need to give descent. There's all these things that I'm looking at in the background as sort of priority wise. That's what I need to do.
So it's really helpful if you do actually then give an instruction of which one you heard, even if it's part of a call sign.
Yes, yeah.
Because at least that one hopefully will be the only one to then transmit. But
hopefully, yes.
That sounds like we're sort of for poor Harry, we might be painting this as a bit of a problem. It's really not. It's no big deal.
No.
But honestly, you can be a frequency could be quite quiet, and it's the moment you decide to transmit, somebody else transmits at the same time.
Yes.
It does happen, but it's something we can deal with quite easily. But the important thing to remember, you can't all talk at once. So it's therefore, if you imagine on a busy frequency that everybody wants to talk and desperately needs to talk to Amanda and say, hello, how are you? Have you had a nice day? And everybody wants to do that. There's not enough time on the radio for everybody to get the calls in. So we now have to be quite clear and concise, and almost sound rude sometimes. We have to be just to the point. No pleases, no thank yous, no hellos, no goodbyes.
Yeah, and that's when you know, especially with me, a lot of you who have spoken to me, again, the pleasantries with me, I know I have the capacity, I have the time, it's not going to affect anything I'm doing. When I get very busy, the pleasantries go, and that's when my IFR crews, my inbound crews to the airfields know that I am working hard and I have a lot to do. Hello. So I've got a new friend, I've got a friend here.
Come on.
So that's when I know, and the crews know, that it's getting busier and I'm having to sort of really cut down what I'm doing.
Just watching ones over there. Yes, yeah, that's right. You can hear the sort of tonal change.
They can normally tell my tone has changed. Oh, she's got assertive, or that kind of thing. You can tell when it's getting busier, and the crews know, I know, and everyone works very well together in that respect, which is always good.
Okay, so for those that are beginning out in this journey on learning to fly, it's just another element of it. Often people think learning to fly is about flying an aircraft around. We eventually say to them, honestly, that's actually not that difficult. That's the easy bit. The difficult bit is doing everything as well as the flying.
Hats off to you guys, multitasking. I'm thinking, I'm doing one job, I'm just air trafficking. You're doing multiple things, and I'm launching instructions at you, and you're going, what did she just say? And then I've gone to the next thing. So no. Hats off. And
for us for the most part, in the helicopters we're flying, there's no autopilot. There's not meant to be, your instructor's not meant to be flying it for you whilst you're necessarily doing the radio. Although we can do that at first, but so you are trying to handle the aircraft in ideally some sort of a straight line, not towards a cloud or a building, etc., other aircraft. And now you've got to try and, so we would say you aviate, navigate, and then you're trying to communicate as well on top of it all. Anyway, so learning this radio telephony, there is a CAP, a CAP, that's a Civil Aviation Publication 413.
Correct.
And I reckon now, if you print it out on A4, it's probably about that thick, I think, something like that, isn't it? Electronic, yeah. It's quite big, yeah. There's quite a lot to it, and so
changing it as well.
Yes, they do. Yes, they keep getting sent out messages via Skywise to say that it's been changed. That's what we tend to use, Skywise, a lot for those notifications. Very good. Yeah, so if for us, for PPL, etc., beginning that journey, trying to learn the radio telephony from the Cat 413, there's a lot in there. I mean, it'll involve even potentially, I think some of the people online flying the big planes, etc., it'll include the sort of phraseology they use. Go on, Dylan.
Skyway codes, nice.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, if you jump straight into the Cat 413, you think I'd sort of think of it more as a bit more of an encyclopedia for it that you might want to use for reference.
Yeah.
Because if you sit and try and read the whole lot and digest it, there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
So you might want to pick out more what's
easy way into it.
Yes, and it'll lead into there's many other publications that will simplify and certainly for us make that a bit more easy to digest. But why, anybody can answer it, why do you think it is quite important to understand maybe how everybody else uses the radio? I'm talking maybe very specific radio calls that perhaps somebody flying a plane transatlantic, etc., whatever makes, not just simply somebody in their Cadbury G2 buzzing around Elstree.
So you stay out their way.
Yeah, potentially, that's right. Because often we can't see the other aircraft in the sky. So how do we deal with that? Yeah, you probably know. So leave it to Amanda. Yeah,
I'll be your eyes and ears.
That's right. Yeah, so there's many ways, isn't there? Potentially, we can get different types of service from lovely people like yourselves.
Of course,
we can always come back to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So learning that phraseology, you can't just purely do it by listening on the radio and flying the helicopter and trying to pick up on it. You've got to pick up the books, but it's much easier to digest radio telephony books that we have for the trainings, Skyway Code, of course, Cat 413, because that's the big, it's got the whole lot in there, and then that practical application of it.
And it's a practical application.
Yeah, so it's always like a lot of these things. It's one thing learning the theory, but then applying it is a little bit more tricky. So from my side of the radio, hopefully everybody will agree, anybody that's learned to fly, nearly everybody suffers from a bit of stage fright on the radio.
I've done it as well. You open the transmit switch, you're thinking, no, I've forgotten. I'll take my finger off the switch again. Yeah, we've all done it.
There's always a bit of stage fright, and trying to get over that is one of the biggest hurdles. Just getting somebody to press the button and just say the first line. That will do. Just get that past that hurdle.
Yeah, even if it's just your call sign, that's a start.
Yeah. So one of the things we often do is we take the people we learn to fly, hopefully in quite the early days, up the tower here. They're really friendly here, and if they're not too busy, they'll take all the time in the world to show you everything that goes on, show them the board with all the flight details of what's going on, where they are, so and literally talk you through it. And you'll hear people talking on the radio, so you can put a face to the voice, which is why it's so lovely that we can actually see here, which is brilliant.
Good behaviour,
yeah, that's it. So it's nice to realise that, like I said back in the beginning, you are a real person. Yeah, and we can, it's nice to meet you to talk to. Okay, so we've got a bit of a grasp of some of that radio telephony wording, phraseology, phonetic alphabets, all these sorts of things.
Words there,
yeah, that's it. And today's the day we're going to go into a Luton zone transit. And if we're not careful, if we pick it up in the classroom, the poor student goes out, they're terrified, they're scared. So we've got to really play it down, actually how easy it might be and simple. If we just don't mess them around, don't worry if you make a small mistake on the radio. And so what would you want from this student that's about to fly out from Elstree with us?
Okay, yep.
They've got a little bit, they got a bit of knowledge on the radio. They've done a few things, but it's a bit scary now. Going to talk to air traffic control, try and request a zone transit.
Okay.
What do you want from them?
So for me, it's clear and concise. So it would be Luton radar, Golf Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta, requesting zone transit. So I know your call sign. I know that you want to come into controlled airspace. Then I can take it from there.
How just for maybe Harry and anybody else's? How do you know we want to come into or controlled airspace? We didn't say that.
By requesting zone transit, you are looking to enter controlled airspace. Some people request zone transit and they don't want to come in, which totally fine. So then we kind of pick it apart. But if you're requesting zone transit, you're looking to enter controlled airspace. So that's my key, that you're going to want to come into my airspace.
And that zone transit, this is good for me to learn as well, because I have to teach you stuff.
Yep.
The transit, that word transit, would that suggest we want to go through or just enter into?
Again, it's different. A transit would be going straight through, or you either want to cut the corner, go through the overhead. You are looking to cross the airspace from one side to another.
And I would normally make it quite clear if I wanted to, I don't know, maybe land at a private site within the controlled airspace. I would literally say that. Requesting entry into the zone to land at a private site.
Again, if that's my cue that I need to come back to you, because you are looking to come into that, rather than.
It's just amazing. So from just a few words, a handful of words, you've already got quite a lot of information, haven't you? Already.
Yes.
Okay, so the poor students, they've managed to, only because they've got it written on their knee, boy. They're looking so pleased with themselves that then what you say back, they've got this blank look on their face of, what did she say?
The stunned silence. So at that point, I know you want to come into controlled airspace, so I will issue a squawk. So squawk 4670, Luton QH1013, pass your message. There's normally another silence because a lot of numbers have now been given. Again, some crews straight off. Again, it's experience. But I will give a little bit of time because you're trying to put the squawk in.
It's tricky. Flying an R22 or a Capri or anything and doing that. It's not easy,
And the Q&H as well. And then I'll wait for you to come in and pass the message.
So for training purposes, we start to know typically what that 4-digit number you gave, not the Q&H, but the other one on the transponder, the squawk. So that's going to go into our little box down there that sends out a signal and sends out that number and maybe a load of information with it as well. And that's not just a random number, is it?
No.
You just sort of pluck one out of the air.
No, I wish I did. No, so each unit has a set of designated squawks. So for Luton, we go from 4670 to 4677, but 4677 actually belongs to Luton Tower. So they will use that outbound for aircraft. So mine's 4670 up to and including 4676. So you know the first 3 digits for Luton will be 467.
That's it. And we can literally have that written down.
With that.
So we know Farmer North is 502 something. So we've already got those. And you can even put the transponder on standby. You can even put those numbers in ready. So you've only got the last digit to do, which is always quite handy. But yeah, that's always helpful for us if we already can and there's so much information now about squawk codes. You can look them up before you go flying. So you can already forewarn yourself with what you're going to get as you travel around the country.
I tried to look for Luton's squawk, but I didn't find it. But that's good to know.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's quite easy to find.
Write it down if you don't mind.
It's quite easy to find, isn't it? And then you sort of you'll give us that partial message, won't you?
Yes.
And here it comes.
Get everything. Nothing. What am I going to get?
You're going to, especially if it's somebody in the beginning, you're going to get the life story if you're not careful, aren't you? Or you're going to get next to nothing. This is
Oh, that's one thing. If you're not sure, just don't do that. And just carry it on. Yes, we can be quite busy, but again, we appreciate that you are all learning.
And the other thing is the radio might not necessarily be that clear. So I can only imagine that if we're umming or something or not very clear, you could easily might misconstrue it for something else, another word.
And I'll come in and go, sorry, say again last. And you'll go, oh no, I've just told you all this. I've now forgotten all that information. So I may ask for it again, which, I've done a few times.
So passing our message, I'm not going to go right away through it all, but what we can do. There's potentially quite a lot of information, actually. Yeah, why not? Does everybody want us to go through it all? Pass your message?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, right, okay. Amanda, somebody want to have a go? Dylan.
He didn't.
Pass your message. We're just in a zone transit. South to north, by the threshold.
Okay. Cavalry G2 to POB out of Elstree will be returning to Elstree. Looking for a zone transit south to north.
Hey, did it? Yeah.
No, that works for me. Yeah.
But if there's anything forgotten, do we need to worry about that if we've forgotten something?
If you've forgotten something, I'll ask for it.
Yeah, exactly. So again, when teaching, certainly just in the early days, because all we're trying to do is get someone to have a go. You know, we're not trying to hound them if they get it slightly wrong or miss something. And we're just do what you can. I've often said, if you can only do half of it and stop, just do half of it. Because trust me, Amanda will come back and she'll ask you. She'll soon work out you're learning to fly. She'll be quite gentle. Don't worry.
I'll be fluffy.
Yeah,
that's it. It'll be okay.
They don't panic. One of the worst things to do is to try and give way too much, because, you know, if you're transmitting, that theoretically you can't hear anybody else. There might even be a Mayday or a pan call coming through.
It could be anything.
So we don't want to be hanging onto the button for too long. And keep that fair.
And make sure to release it when you finish as well. That's another thing.
I do believe some then push to talk. So almost a switch, aren't they? If I remember rightly.
I've got 3 switches I can use. I've got a transmit switch on my radar display on my left, which is a flick switch. I've got one on my headset. So if I'm sort of stood up or doing anything, I have a transmit switch on my headset. I also have a foot switch on the ground, which I now scoot to one side in case I hit it in error. So that's just me. So I've slid that off to one side in case I start transmitting, and I block the frequency. So,
but in the aircraft, I've heard it before. I've not absolutely certain, but I think some aircraft, it's actually, rather than we're used to either a trigger or a button, I think some aircraft, it's literally a flick a switch. So it stays in the transmit position.
Oh.
I think. So, because I've heard someone get stuck on before now and various things. They say, oh, sorry, I left the switch on. It would imply that they've flicked a switch to talk, maybe.
And again,
we normally got sprung loaded switches.
When that's happening, they're blocking the frequency, and now no one else can get in. So that's when we start to spring into action. I've got a block frequency, and we're trying to work out what we need to do. So
So I was back in the earlier days, and you're very good friends and know Helena, of course, and Helena was very experienced as well. And I taught her to fly a helicopter. She'd already fixed wing and commercial fixed wing, I think, at that point. Anyway. And she was the one that taught me ADDPAR, and I've always kind of stuck by that, which was just another mnemonic for what we want to do. And the A was for the aircraft, like Dylan said, Capri G2, for instance, because we've already said the registration, so we don't necessarily need to keep pounding that back at you. The D was departure and destination, but we don't have to say departed Elstree, destination Elstree. We can literally say Elstree to Elstree, because that makes sense, doesn't it? And we can cut down there's a couple of extra words there. Rather than saying, we have departed Elstree and we're heading back to Elstree, we could say Elstree, Elstree.
Yeah, that works.
That's shorten that down. P for position. And I've often said, don't panic if you've forgotten about that bit, because trust me, they're going to find you in a second now. Well, they'll ask.
Well, I've given you a score, so I've seen where you pop up.
Yeah, exactly, So don't stress, but that's one of the things when we're teaching, we have to tell students, before you make the call, do actually look where you are, because that's going to be in the call. You're going to have to tell them where you are, and you can't just say, oh, I'm over this tiny little village, because that generally doesn't work.
My geography isn't that
and you don't see all that on your radar, do you? Not even slightly.
Stansted.
So,
Heathrow. There
you go. And you can change what you can see. You don't get all the roads around Elstree and the reservoir and the trees and the
none of that.
No. So ADDP, and then A for our altitude, because that's probably quite important.
That is,
But why do you need to know how high we are, or even, well, I'm just reading what my altimeter says.
So I need to know what altitude you're at, because I need to verify that what you are telling me is actually correct on the pressure setting.
Because I might have completely the wrong setting on there.
If you're in controlled airspace, then we need to do something about it, yes. So checking your altitude is correct.
Now, something that's, I'll come back to that, sorry, just finish that part. And then we finally got onto that R, which Elena always taught me. It could be the request, but you've already done the request, so it could be the routing, but keep it simple. Don't give you every single turning point. We might have 20 different points we're going to turn. Just keep it quite loose if necessary. So I might just say a transit, like Dylan said, south to north.
Perfect.
And I might even tag in there by the threshold if that's what particularly
even better,
or something along those lines. So the sorry, I'm hogging the floor with Amanda. The altitude. So you're seeing our altitude on our relatively, because our altimeters are just barometric ones, they're not sending out a signal or anything. So I'm just reading off what that says on the pressure setting, the QNH, for instance, but that is potentially not what you're seeing, is it?
No, because I don't know what you're seeing.
Okay. So if I said the altitude, let's say I've said it, I'm on 2,000 feet.
Okay.
What do you see? Or how do you know whether that's correct or not?
So I will have your height reader, I will have your mode Charlie showing.
But mode Charlie is coming from our transponder.
So then this is getting technical. I will tell you what I can see. The eyebrows went up there. He's trying to catch me.
No. It always fascinates me potentially how quick the air traffic controllers are doing the conversion of what our transponders say versus our altimeter. So if anybody's not so certain about this, if the pressure of the day was standard, the 1013.2,
yep,
then potentially, but not guaranteed, our altimeter will be pretty damn close what our transponder is saying.
Because you've got that set on 1013.
Because the transponder is default is set on 1013. That's it, full stop. It's pressure altitude. But our altimeters will be the local or potentially even the regional QNH, which will be completely different.
Don't do the regional.
And on and even on a good day, there can be a few 100-foot difference.
Totally, yes.
So I'm always curious to sort of think, I know you're looking at our transponder, but our transponder might be saying 1800, but the altimeter is saying 2000. So if that altimeter says 2000, the transponder says 1800, would that matter? Would you come back?
So have you given me 2000 feet?
Yeah, give me 2000, because we'd say what's on our altimeter,
so
not our transponder.
You can have a discrepancy of, I believe it's up to 300.
Yes, that's right.
So if you're within that tolerance, okay, if it looks like you're right in the base of controlled airspace, then I might just advise you, if you think you're 300 feet lower, be advised your altitude is indicating 2,500. You're right on the base of the London TMA. So just be advised.
So for those sexes, it's a good point, because for those that can work this out, 300 foot is how many hectopascals? 10. It's only 10. So if we're flying on a day where the QNH for us is 1003, that's a 10 difference already, isn't it? So our altimeter will be potentially 300 foot different to our pressure altitude, and there'll be the difference. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that the altimeter's on the QNH, the transponder's on pressure altitude, basically.
When the pressure is lower, the risk of a level bust is higher. The lower the pressure goes, again, we've seen this within the TMA from going in altitude up to a flight level. If they're still climbing through the transition altitude on the airfield QNH and they haven't gone across the 1013 to level off at a flight level, they will bust their level and they will go up by
so you're not necessarily doing a calculation just to see if our altimeters are fairly accurate, as in working out the difference of the QNH that you've given us versus the pressure altitude?
No. I've never done that. And again, so you mentioned about the transponder being set on one. And you
can't change the transponder, just pressure altitude. That's it, full stop. So the signal it sends out is purely pressure altitude.
Something today. No, that's fascinating.
Like I say, we've had recently, not that high, but what did it go up to the other day, Dylan? And down actually 9. What did we have? 9.7. Yeah, I mean it's significant.
We did
significantly lower, significant. And then we've had it before. God, I'm losing track now. 3 years ago, it got up to 1049, I think it was. Because we all started to ask. Our altimeters only go up to, I think, 1050 off the top of my head.
I think
we're all starting to ask, what happens if it exceeds 1050? And apparently everything just defaults to 1013, 1013 hectopascals. We just all have to work off of that.
That would totally fox me, I have to admit.
The chat wants to join.
All right, somebody else better ask them. And so, look, take over, Dylan, or somebody else take over for a second. So we've managed.
An easy one.
So
hang on, carry on with the zone trans. So we passed your message.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll pass on the message to you.
Okay.
And then what are you doing?
So I've made a note of all of that. I've been tippy-tapping away in the background on electronic strips, putting all that aircraft information in.
Is it all electronic now?
All electronic, yes. So I've put that all in, and you're requesting zone transit. So I'll go, you're identified, I'll issue a type of service. If you've asked for traffic service, and I'm able to do that traffic service, otherwise basic service. And then I will issue a clearance, will be my next port of call.
Okay.
So was it north to south or south to north? You were looking south, like south, I can do that. So I will clear you in. Again, we'll use Luton. You're cleared into the Luton zone to hide to hold.
Yeah.
Of 2,000 feet VFR. And I always ask at that point, advise when you get Luton in sight. And that's the point. I'm expecting a read back of everything.
Okay.
So just to make sure that it has all been understood rather than Roger. No. Roger's not.
Roger, surely that's all right. That's all right. Yeah. I've heard everything. It's all right.
I do have, but again, that's when I need everything read back.
On your side of things, what are you doing to make sure? Do you have to check other traffic that's landing and taking off and transiting, or is there a set procedure that you have for us?
So you've called for zone transit. As soon as you've called for transit, I'm now looking around. I have a long range radar. I normally have it on a scary range, my colleagues say. So I have the Luton long range. We'll use Luton again because of where Elstree is in relation. So I've got the Luton long range set to 120 miles. I can see all Luton traffic within 120 miles. So I'm ready. I'm thinking if there's nothing there, it's okay. If there's a big green glow, I'm about to get really busy. So if I have the capacity, brilliant stuff. I know you want transit. I will potentially preempt and have a chat with the tower. I'll have VFR transit so they know it's coming, because I will potentially look to give it to Luton Tower if they have traffic. If I'm going to get busy, I might say stand by or call you. If it's too busy and I have a lot of aircraft onto final and I've got a lot of aircraft off in the sequence for Luton, it might be a negative, remain outside controlled airspace. Do you control the workload? So it's finding that balance of, can I get you through safely? At the end of the day, safety first, yes or no? Will there be a delay? There'll be a 5-minute delay. Are you happy to take it? Some crews will. Some people, oh no, don't want to do that. Well, fair enough, remain outside controlled airspace. It's amazing the reactions you get. Some people are absolutely brilliant and some people can be really off with you. But again, it's all a matter of the integration of the traffic. So I'm looking at everything. Am I going to get busy? Have I got a lot on? Have I potentially got any survey flights in controlled airspace? Are you going to come into conflict with those? Is the weather looking borderline? The weather's also another issue. Are you able to maintain VFR? If not, that's a whole different ballgame. So all these things are being looked at and trying to figure it all out to make it all work.
Sometimes that's not obvious to us because we go on the frequency. It sounds pretty quiet.
Yes. You think I'm doing nothing.
But in fairness, to be honest, it's really, apart from there are certain airspaces, not around here to be honest, but there are certain airspaces they never let us through, no matter what. Yeah. Whereas around here, I mean, it's rare for Luton, Stansted, Heathrow, for instance, City. It's really rare for them to say no. They say there might be a tiny little delay, but it's rare for them to ever refuse us due to control of workload. Really good, must admit, it's fantastic. So
and we will always specify the reason for delay.
Yes.
Again, if I've got 3 other transits in controlled airspace, to make it a 4th, there's now potentially 16 bits of traffic information I have to pass to VFR aircraft alone. That isn't working in the IFR inbounds and all that. So it's a matter of knowing how much you can do and how much you can do safely.
How quickly do you, so obviously you're speaking to us, you're based in Swanwick.
Yes.
How often, how quickly do you speak to the guys at Luton or Stansted?
I'm probably straight on the phone as you've just finished your last call.
This did fascinate me always, because
say phone, you're not dialing in a number.
No, so I've got a 4-page keypad. It's got the old
days to get through.
We're put on hold again.
So we have, all depending on where you're sat within the Swanwick ops room will depend.
My laptop.
So the dog's having a bit of a
So you can't see
No, he wants to do it as well. So all depending on where you're sat at Swanwick will depend on what phone line you have. So I would have the Luton phone panel selected. On my front page, I have 2 phone lines to Luton Tower, and I have a priority line as well, because when Luton gets really busy, we will split into 2 positions. So weirdly, this is going to get a bit technical. I'm working on 2 frequencies when I'm bandboxed of 12955 and 12875. Those 2 frequencies are cross-coupled.
Excuse me, why do they call it bandbox?
So I'm not entirely sure.
No, I mean, that's what I'd ask.
So the two positions are basically become one. So that would be bandboxed. I can split them apart, but that when the 2 frequencies are cross-coupled, when I transmit, I'm going out across both those frequencies. Yeah. When we uncouple them, the 2 frequencies become separate. So that's why sometimes you'll hear me say contact Luton director, because it's not a frequency we use much now. We're getting busier. So I'm everybody, but the phone lines I have to towers, one from final director, one from intermediate director, and I have a priority line. If I need to get hold of the tower very, very quickly for whatever reason, traffic going around, airspace infringement, I will hit the priority line and that will go off and a different tone in the tower. That flashes red on my end and it always scares the living daylights out. Who's going around, what's happened. So that is their cue to pick up immediately. But I've just got a quick button, ring them, and they'll just pick up the tower, and I go radar, VFR transit. Would you like to work it? A firm is normally the answer. So then I give your details to Luton Tower.
I still love the fact, it's done by telephone, isn't it?
You all by phone,
all by phone. That's
school.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And all this time now, other people can be calling out those
Yeah.
zone transit. And there's that bit where you hear like nothing, and it's like, "Oh, standby, I was on the phone" or something.
Yes, I was going to say, yeah, you occasionally hear him say, I was on the phone. Think, what? You're not supposed to be on your mobile. Yeah. Hang on, I'm just, just doing social media.
But yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
That'd be my P45.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So when we say station, I was on the phone, you're thinking, oh, what was she doing? I was on the phone to the Tower or the London TMA. I could be on the phone to Cranfield.
Yeah.
I could be on the phone to Elstree. You never know. There's so many other bits and pieces going on in the background. So yes, that's normally what it means.
Good. All right. So at this point, have we got our clearance to go in there yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, good. That's right. I didn't know that, but yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that's the general gist of it, isn't it? It's when we talk about zone transit, it's pretty easy from our point of view. All we've got to do is say hello.
Yeah.
You're probably going to say, "Oh, hello."
Hello.
But because you don't necessarily know who's calling, so you need a bit of information, don't you? But so basically, what do you want? We say, "Oh, this is what we want," and you kind of go, "All right, we'll do this." We go, "Okay, I'm doing that."
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go through, and it's that, isn't it? It's
that's
pretty
simple. Yeah.
Yeah, it is quite simple when you sort of do like that. Often when teaching RT, I've to try and get this picture across. I said, imagine you're in a dark room, so you can't see anybody, but you know there's people in the room, and there's somebody in there you want to talk to. Think about how are you going to talk to that person? Because if you just say hello, it's no good because everybody might say hello back to you. But if you say their name first, their ears prick up. Oh, hang on, somebody wants to talk to me. They're in here somewhere. I don't know where. And that's a way of thinking of the RT. That's what I sort of to try and get that picture across, which is why it's important to make sure you say, for instance, the person you want to talk to, their name, so they know you want to talk to them. But don't forget to say your name. Obviously, don't actually know who's talking. But it's okay. Once you've got that kind of rapport going,
two-way,
you don't necessarily have to keep saying their name and keep saying your full name. You can shorten it down a little bit. This is where we get the shorter call signs. We can shrink it down, but only when you're happy to shrink it.
I'm always happy, yes.
Yeah. So we're not allowed to, when we do our full call sign, we can't shorten, we're not meant to abbreviate ourselves until air traffic control has abbreviated it.
So it's normally first call, I'll use your entire call sign. That's normally the point where you can either come in with your full call sign, or if you want to shorten it down, because we've now got a two-way conversation going. The only time I may ask for full call sign is if there's a similar call sign on frequency. So if you're Golf Echo Zulu and there's another call sign that shortens down to Golf Echo Zulu, I've normally realised, oh, hello, okay, so I'm now trying to use the full call sign and keep the two apart. And I will always sort of be a lot slow in what I'm saying just to make sure the confusion doesn't take place, because it is easily done with similar.
I was flying with somebody a little while ago, it became a revelation because they were struggling. There was a frequency, a call sign very similar to ours. Wasn't that close, but it sounded similar.
Yes.
But it wasn't that similar. Can't remember what it might be in the two letters with the opposite way round. But every time
the potential of transposing
yes, that's right. So I said, well, why don't you just request to use their full call sign? Can we do that? I said, of course you can. If it's unclear for us as well, we can request that our full call sign's used so that it's much clearer. Yeah. So you can always do it the other way around. Yeah, as necessary.
Julie's got a question. Is it technical?
Call sign, like let's say Jedi pilot.
We actually have a Jedi come into Lincoln. We do. Yes, we do. Jedi, I'm sorry.
So, like, can you assign yourself when you first start up a call sign, or do you have to register a call sign like Top Cap?
So I'm not sure how that
I can
works.
answer that. So back in the long time ago, you could almost come up with your own call sign and use it. You did have to have an operation of some description, but now really it's only reserved for commercial organisations who have a call sign that they'll then assign numbers to the pilots, etc. But of course, if
I couldn't tell you, I think it's a biz jet that flies. You've got Jedi, you've got Thundercats, of course you've got Top Cat, which is a helicopter, you've got Woodstock.
Yeah,
you've got all sorts of weird and wonderful things. Yeah,
you can though on a flight plan, I think, can't you? That's when you then can put in a call sign different to your aircraft reg. I think that's the one exception. You don't have to be under an AOC for that.
Ooh, really?
So because on your flight plan it will just say what's your aircraft type, but what's then your call sign. So on the flight plan it's got either or, so you can put in.
I'm still not certain you can do that. I think that's just an option so that if you were on a AOC flight, etc., you'd show your reg, but then you'd show that this is basically what you need to call me. Yeah, I don't
Not
think
something I've tried, but someone told me you can do that. And
I'm
like,
not
I've not tried it. But yeah.
convinced. People, you've
Yeah.
just volunteered yourself for some homework.
Yeah.
You can let us all know about that. There we are.
Just no tongue twisters, nothing embarrassing that I can fall into some kind of trap with, because it's going to happen.
I heard, I think we've spoken about this. I think it was you on the radio at the time. Going into Luton was, I thought they were saying risky business. And I thought, wow, what were they transporting? You know, there was a plane flying in or out. And I thought it was risky, but then apparently whiskey business. And they are in the whiskey business, aren't they? Yeah.
I was talking to Steph earlier, and she heard what she thought was Mr. Germany.
Mr. Germany.
It's Vista, like Vista. You have Vista Germany, Vista Malta. But when you're not used to it, you're thinking, what did they just say?
Sometimes it's not entirely clear.
I've had the military call sign a machete and thought, I can't spell that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good. So who else wants to ask Amanda something before I fire some more at her? Poor Amanda.
I've got a question. Yeah, I can go.
Hey Sophie, how you doing? Sophie's in Montreal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, with the nice weather.
I was going to say, yeah, it looks quite nice there, Mo. You can see that.
It does. It's sunny and warm, whatever. Yeah, what about your shift? Because I was wondering, when it gets busy, then, you know, your head is like everywhere and, you know, inside, outside, you know, everywhere. So how long do you intend to be on the shift? I mean, how long are the shifts, and how long are you like within the radio? You know, like.
So my shift pattern is 2 mornings, 2 afternoons, 2 night shifts, 4 off. So
but for 7 hours?
So the morning shift is 7 hours.
Yeah.
The afternoon shift is 8 hours. And the night shift is 9 hours, which is 10 through till 7 a.m. So when all the crews are sort of landing in the early hours, I'm still there till 7 in the morning. So that's the standard pattern. Then I have 4 days off. Maximum time on position depends on where you're sat, and it also depends on time of day, without getting technical. But for example, Luton Intermediate Director is a 90-minute position, so the maximum I can be there is an hour and a half. Luton Final Director, if that was open, would be 2 hours is the maximum. Then I'd have to have a minimum 30 minutes. But hopefully we're not there for that long. But those are the maximums.
Okay, so same here. Yeah. Because when it gets busy, I believe that, you know, 2 hours, after 2 hours, you'll be completely wrenched.
Long time, again, when you're doing constant spacing. But once you've got used to where the wind is, that's the one thing as a radar controller that changes daily. Where's the wind coming from? And again, my crews will vouch of one heading worked yesterday, the next day it was, oh, hello, that didn't work, did it? And I'll apologise, I'm sorry, that was a tight heading. Because what was a tailwind the day before is now headwind. So once you've got used to what you're working with, it isn't too bad. But again, as you said, it is.
Yeah, suddenly thought about that. Of course, the heading you're giving, you've got to allow for some drift, haven't you?
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, my inbound crews are aware of that one. Well, for a 4-mile final, I'd figured that one. Yes, I'm about to correct. So you do realise, and when you get a radar handover from your other colleague, you go in, you plug in, take a controller out. They will give you everything. So, for example, runway 2225, your high pressure, I'm in static 7. They'll let me know what the spacing is, what rolls and frequencies I've got, then the traffic, and then anything non-standard. It is windy, Amanda, and I'll go, Roger. And they'll give me, this is a good base leg heading, this is a good closing heading, which is always good, because when you sit down, the last thing you want to do is fluff up the first closing heading of the day. So you are always getting used to the weather and the wind. And if there's storms going through, again, you'll all know, that changes pretty rapidly. So what was a headwind is now a tailwind, and yes, so there's a lot of things.
If you did a handover, would you sit at the same station as that person? So
they would plug in. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm sat down. So that might be something else you hear, sort of station calling. You've just called for transit. I will have jotted your call sign down and given you the pressure. I would say station calling standby, controller handover in progress. Because if I don't unplug, you can see everything's just going to keep going and going and going, and I'm never going to get a cup of tea. So that's when I will be handing that over. Your details are there. All the IFR traffic's been handed over to my colleague. I will unplug. but I will be stood behind them just to make sure they have the entire picture. So I will never just wander off and leave them. You stand there for a few minutes just to make sure that everything you've said has gone in, they're aware, they know the situation, and they're happy, and that's the key thing.
Would you, so is it just the two of you on that station, you would just keep talking, you wouldn't go off to another station or do something else, would you?
If I was needed on Stansted for whatever reason, if I was rostered for Luton, I can go in and I can go on.
Oh, you can just go and pick up a different station, just take the handover notes, etc., and crack on with that one instead.
So yeah, holding two validations, I can do both. I can move from one to the other. So yes.
But how can there's quite a big difference between Stansted and Luton, isn't there? Look, they're miles apart. Look, Stansted's over there, Luton's there. So how could you just nip over to Stansted?
So weirdly, you might hear me unplug on Stansted and then randomly appear on Luton. So
you move so quick.
I'm magical. Within terminal control, we have the approaches for Gatwick is in sort of, I'll say that corner. I can't really describe it to you. Then you've got Luton, which is sat next to them. So Luton and Gatwick are sat next to one another. Stansted is then further down the room, not far, within sort of reaching distance. Then we have Heathrow, and we also have the approach for London City.
So
we're all in one room.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless we haven't made it clear, and this was a revelation to me, it was actually quite a long time ago, but I always thought when I was talking to somebody like Amanda, as I fly past the Tower of Luton, I'm waving, realising you're not there. You're miles away down there somewhere in the south.
Down near Southampton.
Yeah, so the people that we're usually talking to aren't actually at the airfields, as in Luton, Stansted, Heathrow, etc. Yeah, you're down at Swanwick, aren't you?
Most bizarre.
We
Actually went to Nats earlier this year.
Oh, did you?
You weren't there, certainly, but
I'm sorry.
It's the most extraordinary thing to go into that huge hangar, as it were, and you see all the various stations, all those Luton, there's Stansted, and these stations, and the calm is extraordinary because all this activity goes. One particular station was very busy.
Yes.
And there's a handover going on, and it's just so relaxed. And I was amazed by this. And I was thinking, when I speak to you or to one of your colleagues, I'm thinking that desk goes to that desk goes to that.
It's incredible how close we are all together. I know when I used to do Essex radar, and I'd be plugged on Essex, and I'd be talking to the Luton traffic. I'd unplug, and I'd be on Luton. So then I'd follow that aircraft from the Essex airspace onto Luton. I go, hello again. And they go,
yeah.
And they haven't twigged it's me again. They think, well, oh, she's been a bit weird with me. No, that's because I've literally moved from one frequency to another.
From one part of the room on to another, or down the corridor, whatever it is.
To see, obviously, you got radar in front of you.
Yes.
But do you get to see any screens of Luton or Stansted?
I don't see what's going on at the airfields now.
You just sit
I
there,
have the aerodrome weather.
Yeah.
And I'm going off that. So if I say Luton were in low vis, I think back end of last cycle, what's the weather looking like? Is it improving? Because I can't see. I have no idea. So I rely on the tower and the Met forecast. Because we had traffic holding out that couldn't land because of the cloud. And he called me on box 2 because he was holding way up to the northwest and said, well, what's the weather looking like? I'll ring the tower. Tower couldn't see out the window. So it was because they were in cloud. So it's difficult trying to get a feel for things, but this is where speaking to the tower, you pick up a lot from them, and they're incredibly helpful to help me build a bigger picture.
I'm not sure it's you. I spoke to somebody the other few weeks back. I thought hopefully it's being helpful, but because you could hear that the planes that were trying to fly in, it might have been Luton, the planes that were trying to fly in were clearly IFR at the time. They're in IFC, they can't see where they're going.
No.
And there's weather or very close to or at the airfield, but around it was really clear.
Yes.
And either I got asked or I quickly piped up and said, if it helps at all, and I actually described very quickly what the weather was like. It's actually really clear over here, etc. It's just very localized, or I can't remember who I was speaking to, but yeah, because that's right. We forget that you can't see actually what we can see.
No.
Yeah.
You sometimes think she's stating the obvious, but I can't see what we can see for miles. But I've got broken at 400 feet.
Yes, that's right. You're working on the textual information, not an actual eye looking out the window.
So this is where crew reports go, no, it's fine. Thanks. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, it can be.
Last week, the 1,000-mile-an-hour winds.
Oh yeah, did you see that the other day?
Oh, that was the BBC.
Yeah, that was funny, wasn't it?
Not going off that.
Apocalyptic, no.
Really should land.
Actually, the ground speed on that one.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? Especially with nice tailwind.
In the days of dinosaurs. Does it make any difference if you say that?
So I don't know if you heard that about saying good morning and being courteous. So the question was asked, if you're nice to air traffic, are you more likely to get a transit? No, it doesn't work like that. Again, I appreciate the good morning, but again, it's all a matter of safety first. Can it be accommodated? Is the weather such? One thing is about sounding confident. If you sound like you're really not sure what you're doing and you want to come very, very close to a London airport, we may be a little bit more reluctant, because it's a matter of, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you know what you've been given? Are you able to achieve it safely? Or are you going to go off on a tangent? Or it's just a matter of, I need to be confident that you know what I've given you. You are going to do what I've given you, and you're going to do it safe.
So just come on.
I fly from Duxford also from here. And I do Switzerland in transit a couple of times.
Yes.
But does it help you when I'm, say, flying from Duxford, when I say Luton radar request zone transit Perkin to M1 Junction 8, does that help you, or should that be left and still place a message?
Perfect. So requesting Perkin Junction 8, I now know what you'd like.
Yeah.
So from the in-between bit of that, it will be potentially Offaly to hold, field in sight, and then the tower to give you onward transit if they have traffic to affect. So that expectation, I know what you're looking for. So that's perfect.
That I find mesmerising when I actually got it, and then you say to me past the east of runway 25 or
Yes.
the west of 07. So I actually marked on my Sky Demon what they are, because when you're flying from the north and the south, it's very confusing. So you know exactly where you're going to go.
Yes.
The threshold or runway. That helps tremendously to have that marked on the Sky Demon.
That's good. Also, another thing I will give, if someone sounds like they've read it back but aren't entirely sure, I will say keep Luton down your left-hand side, keep the runway and the airfield down your left-hand side or your right-hand side, because the last thing that you want at short notice is to someone to go through the climb out. So I sometimes will go, it's not standard phraseology, but it's kind of like belt and braces. I'm just going to double check.
It's really helpful.
You're going to keep
with
the airfield and the runway down
flow
your
a lot of
left-hand
people because they're struggling with the capacity of what they're already
Yes.
doing to fathom out which end is actually the threshold.
Yeah.
And I admit, back in the early days of learning to fly, I used to struggle picturing a circuit pattern there for the runway direction in my head while flying.
Yeah.
I was amazed at my instructor managing to work this out. So saying keep it on your left or your right, hopefully makes it real. It's only 50-50 then, isn't it? You're going to get it wrong. Is that? Yeah, so
you're going south as well. So if you're going,
that's right. You're trying to fathom it out.
Say, to the west of the 27 threshold. You know,
oh no, that's right. So that whilst you're practice low, so I'm trying to again this way. Your radar's on track, isn't it?
Very nice for you to go to me was to say, look, just have it written down. Today, for example, I flew over Cambridge and Watersham, and I had a little script ready to go.
Yes.
And spoke straight away to Cambridge Approach, and they wanted to know what my routing was, so I had to give them precise routing.
Yeah.
What I didn't know was almost over Cambridge, and they suddenly switched me to Cambridge radar, and you know they wanted me to climb to 2,000 feet, which was not written anywhere about that voice abatement. But it's having these frequencies and all this script ready just to sort of give them positions, because they want to know exactly what the turning points were.
Yeah.
So that's it makes a difference.
It does. It does.
I've got more questions, but I'll shut up.
That's all right.
Speed.
Oh yes, yeah.
Oh,
so sometimes, we often hear best speed.
So I try and avoid using that now. Again, it's not really something you should really use.
Stick your foot down, mate.
Yeah, basically, isn't it? It's, can you get a shift on? Yeah.
Funny, children and water zone transit through Stansted.
Okay.
And they said, yeah, that's fine. And then all of a sudden they came back still. Could you, does it make your best speed or whatever, however they described it? And I was like, oh, what does that mean?
It's a clue for get a shift on, there's something coming. Yeah.
Just sort of making sure that, you know, we're going at a good pace.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you think, oh, we're really going along a little bit quicker than we were. I was like, they're just saying hurry up, so but they can't say go as fast as you can.
Yeah, basically, can you get a shift on? Yeah.
So there's also been occasions where I've given transit north to south, and they've got to beam the runway threshold, and they've decided they're doing a U-turn. They just wanted to come and have a look-see.
Brilliant.
No,
No. Oh,
no.
God.
Landing traffic format, no. It's just no. Your clearance was via the 2.5 threshold, for example, and you're continuing southbound. At no point did I say you can do a U-turn. So that is, a clearance is given, a clearance is to be adhered to. You're inside controlled airspace, radar control. You have to do what you've been told to do, unless you can't do it safely. Then you tell me. You don't suddenly do a U-turn.
Unless I've heard some air traffic controllers on the very, very, very odd occasion seem to advertise eggs. They say free range.
So
it's a rubbish show. I do apologize. So yeah, very occasionally we get free range.
Exactly.
Yeah, very occasionally, not at Luton to be honest, although COVID it was almost free range. But city airports sometimes when they're shut, of course, you just get free range.
So I believe they will do that because the runway's shut, city's shut, there are checks on. Yeah. So we have something like a check all. So that is basically, even though the airfield's shut, again, I will put a check all on. So when the airfield does reopen, all departures are released subject radar. So they have to call me for release. So once I know there's nothing in or nothing out, then you can scoot about.
Yes, occasionally we get free. Very occasionally we get free range at some places. Yeah,
if I've ever done that, maybe the police helicopter in the dead of night when I've had no departures. But again, I would put a check all.
I've often wondered if free range really truly means free range, as in can we just literally go buzzing straight over the top of the tower, down the runway, whatever, 500
again,
foot
subject to interpretation.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Question a flyby.
Yeah, yes, yeah. Hey, very good. Sorry.
But no, that's not something I've really done. Again, I think the policeman was chasing someone one day, and that was when I gave them sort of own navigation to do what they wanted to. But again, it was a hard stop on departures, but there was nothing there.
And something else, I don't know if you know the answer to this. I'm absolutely certain, long time ago, Tony will probably remember this. When we were doing transits, quite often we could just go straight over the centre of the runway. Even Luton, I've been across the middle of the runway many, many times. And then suddenly that kind of stopped one day, and it was always via the threshold. You know, a proper overhead, the middle of the runway, perpendicular to it, stopped. Any idea why, or do you know the exact answer?
Never gone through the overhead. When you're going through the overheads, you're basically, if there's any traffic inbound or outbound, mainly outbound, you're going to cross the midpoint. If there's anything to depart and they rotate, you're there. So when we say to keep the airfield on your left or via, say, east of the 2.5 threshold, we know you are clear of that runway. Anything departing is going to be absolutely fine because you're behind them.
In my mind, the change, I could be completely wrong here, which I often am, but the change was after 9/11. I don't know if there's any significance in that whatsoever, but in my head it was around
I was
about
at
there.
college when 9/11 happened, so I'm not sure.
But it was always the case if we wanted to transit through Luton many times, you'd literally go just straight up top of the runway, no problems at all. And then suddenly, almost overnight, it changed.
Obviously something somewhere was.
Some places
you can still get a full overhead though. It's not.
If the tower issue it, if I've given you to the tower, it's their runway, their ATZ. If they want to do that, they can.
I can't remember the last time. It's always been by the threshold. I can't even remember the last, apart from really long time ago. I can't remember the last time I got to go over the top of either Luton or Stansted.
I think probably standardisation for clearances.
Yeah, probably.
So there's no ambiguity.
I wasn't sure if there was a trigger or what happened. Like I say, in my mind, it was around about 9/11, but I don't know if I could just be. Yeah. There's still some places that don't have any problem with it, but in particular, the sort of the major airports, you know, Luton, Stansted, Gatwick's, all those sorts of places. No, it's just a no. It seems now you never get to go literally over the top of the runway. It's always via the threshold.
I think it's again because we have got busier again. Integration of VFR with IFR just to keep everybody moving.
Could it also be maybe because of, I'm just thinking if the plane, as you say, like rotates
earlier,
you've also got TCAS problems, because also what is the midpoint to a GA VFR pilot if they're kind of enjoying themselves?
It's all subject to interpretation. So as a radar controller, I couldn't even tell you where the midpoint is because Luton's about that big. It's, you know what I mean?
It's a dot on your screen, isn't it? Yeah.
It's about an inch. That's how I work. So that is very, very different to looking out the window. And again, for the flight crews, they know where the midpoint is, touchdown zone. To me, it's contact tower, and that's it. So again, the tower would have more understanding as to what they're giving and being able to give. But again, if something's live and it takes off early and it's going up like a rocket, it's probably going to be over the top of you. So, I'd guess. Hopefully, yes.
Now,
can I
talk about? I'll throw this one out there. Can I talk about? Hopefully not, but can I talk about infringements? Obviously, we don't need to say who or anything like that. Of course not. No, not after any gory details. But if you've got any, do tell us. But no. So obviously, infringements are when we've accidentally wandered up into or horizontally into controlled airspace.
Yep.
Technically, at what point is an infringement? Is it just before, or is it actually as you go into controlled airspace, first of all?
As soon as you enter controlled airspace, that's it, you're in. If you've entered controlled airspace without a clearance, you are unknown traffic. You're deemed to be infringed.
Right, so therefore, as long as next time I fly and don't talk to you, and I use my GPS to skim the edge by 10 foot, because it's accurate to about 10 footish, maybe. But there we are. We'll say 50 foot. There we go. 50 foot. That's okay.
Okay. I'd rather you didn't. It's not exactly good flying practice to fly the zone boundary, because all it takes is change wind direction. You've not taken any updraft or anything into account, and you've got up into controlled airspace. You've infringed. I may have traffic there.
How might that impact you? So picture this. You've got it on the table here, but if I were to, I'm not saying a word, by the way, obviously.
I know you wouldn't, Paul.
No, I wouldn't. If I flew around the east side, so past Stevenage area, not talking to you, not squawking anything in particular other than 7,000, you've got no idea who I'm frequency on, or even if I've even on a frequency, might have turned the radio volume down.
Okay.
I am skimming the edge of controlled airspace. Technically, I'm still not in it.
What's your current altitude?
2,450.
It would be, wouldn't it? Okay.
So I'm right tucked up into the corner like this, going around controlled airspace. Is that a bit of a headache for you?
Yes. You're sending out the tornadoes for you, mate.
Hey, I'm outside of controlled airspace. I'm not doing anything technically, legally wrong. So talk to me about that. Why is that a headache for you?
So for runway 25.
And and they're on fire. They're landing big off there,
So as I'm descending for Luton, I'm dropping normally right base, dropping to 3,000 feet, and you're eking your way around to 2.4. You're outside controlled airspace. I'm turning inbound for the INS-25. You're at 2.4. I'm at 3,000 feet. You're outside controlled airspace. I'm inside. We are deemed separated at 600 feet. You make one wrong move and you've entered controlled airspace. I'm now going into avoiding action. As soon as you cross any zone boundary and into controlled airspace or climb, that is when I have the potential to lose separation, or if I've lost separation, I now need to regain it. So if I'm descending for 3, you're at 2.4, and suddenly, or 2.5, you got to 2.6, I've now lost separation. I've got inbound traffic, and that will be avoiding action to break that traffic off, because I need to get either 3,000 feet or 3 miles. I'm not going to get the 3,000 feet.
Right.
And traffic normally leads the glide at Luton around about 7 miles. So normally, once they get inside 8 miles, which is probably where you're scooting around, they're looking to start their descent with the glide path. So that is very, very close in. And that is, I would rather you didn't do that. But again, you can legitimately do that.
So you're watching us like a hawk at that point, presumably, literally ready to pounce at a moment's notice and try and suddenly change everything because you're not talking to us, because we're dark enough not to talk to you at this point.
I probably would have advised my inbound traffic that there is... You may get traffic on TCAS. Again, it's not standard, but I said you may have traffic on TCAS. It is indicating 2,400 feet outside controlled airspace. They'll be getting traffic. They will be aware that you are there. You can normally hear it go off once you've made the call. And normally when I've made that decision to potentially call traffic, you can normally hear the TCAS in the background. So I've advised them that you are there. If at any point the crew is unhappy, if they get an RA, if you're there, again, legitimately.
RA
is a resolutionary avoidance, I believe, or advisory. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm sure someone can.
Anybody online know that? Yeah, look, there's a hand up for Khalid. Yeah, what's that?
So you get an RA.
Yeah, it's the second one, advisory.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So as soon as the RA kicks in, I'm no longer in control. I'll say to the crew, advise under my control. They're now following TCAS. They will probably get a climb, if anything, if they think. So they follow what the aircraft.
It's causing a bit of a headache. And what if it looks like we're literally just about to accidentally wander into control desk? Can you make an early call to that, or do you still have to wait?
I can make a judgment. If I think that you may infringe, I can potentially hold the inbound off. I would rather be wrong and you don't infringe. And I've said, I'm going to take you through from the north through base, and I'm going to bring you in behind. Traffic outside controlled airspace is a little bit close. I'm going to make that call because I would rather add 3 or 4 more miles to inbound traffic rather than them get an RA, having to climb away, reconfigure and come back round again.
And if so, I'm painting a terrible picture, aren't I? So I'm just about to come in and I just turn in time. If you've extended or made traffic go around, would you get in trouble for that, for making that call? Or
no, it's a safety call.
It's a safety call.
It's a safety call. At the end of the day, I'm operating on my license, and it's always safety first. So if I want to extend aircraft for the sake of a couple of miles, I will do it. I would rather do that than have a loss of separation.
But this seems like a lot of headache for me, being a pain skimming the controlled airspace. What would be a better idea is
if you do, so we have take 2, so which is 2 miles or 2,000, not 2,000 feet, 200 feet. I was going to say frequency monitoring code.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So yeah, we whilst we don't have to, we teach it. Stay at least 2 miles away horizontally.
Sorry, can I just add to this? Sorry.
Yep, of course.
Hi, sorry, my name's Khalid. Thank you firstly for the last minute ad on Instagram. I couldn't make it, unfortunately, but thank you for the link that you sent.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you, cheers. The RAs, I'm a Wizz Air pilot based in Luton. So firstly, speaking to you, finally putting voice to face is amazing. And yeah, honestly, your voice is like the most welcoming, friendly voice ever on RT. Whenever, honest to God, whenever we hear Samantha's voice, me and the captain and whoever I'm flying with, whatever, we always like love it, and we know it's the whole approach is going to be friendly and good vibes. But anyways, the RA. What I was going to add to that as well is from our side. Obviously, it's not compulsory for all traffic to have mode Charlie. Some just have mode Alpha, and sometimes you as controllers just have it as a target without even an altitude. So for us as pilots also, on our radar screen for our TCAS, what's even more stressful in a situation like that, if you're coming very close, is we don't even have an altitude. On our navigation display, we just have an aircraft and just a white target. So we don't know as pilots if there is, for example, a Charlie with an altitude reporting system, we can see that it's plus 2,000 or minus 2,000, or okay, he's below us 500 feet. But if it's just a dot, it stresses us out even more as well, because then we're like looking outside the window, just in case, making sure this guy that's 50 feet below, the controlled airspace is not in our way, basically. So it is a little bit stressful.
Because they're kind of in stealth mode. I will always try and endeavour not to overflight. Again, you don't have to, but I think with experience and time, you think I'd rather offset you slightly, just in case. But again, I've had questions. Can you confirm we've got traffic showing on TCAS? Again, no height readout.
Yeah.
So you can see the kind of the scenario I've set, which I wouldn't do. I just wouldn't do it. It's just crazy.
I'd remember if you did.
Yeah. Whilst it might be perfectly legal, it would be suggested it's definitely not very safe, and it's really not very helpful to anybody, is it?
It's not.
And it's quite selfish. And prior to the days of just classic sat nav in the aircraft, it seemed like you either just got people that infringed because they just weren't very good at navigation, or people were far more cautious because if they're slightly wrong with their position, they don't want to bust airspace, so they gave it a much wider berth. Then sat-nav came around for in the aircraft, and suddenly people are skimming the edge of controlled airspace because they will run, literally, and do exactly what I've just described.
That's what it looks like, and you're thinking you're always so much more cautious.
I can remember reading numerous reports of this, quite often out of Duxford, and infringing Stansted, and the pilot said, no, my sat-nav said I was out of the zone bound. It's like, but
my radar.
You're like, exactly. The radar suggests you're in. You might only be 50 foot or whatever. To that, and there seemed to be a period of time when people were running the boundary because the sat nav said they weren't in the zone. Rather than being a bit more sensible about it, they're just trying to keep it so damn tight.
Or if you do want to run close to controlled airspace, call me. I'll identify
Best thing is it's cold.
And then I will give you a clearance. You're clear to enter Luton controlled airspace. All dogs around.
Fly.
Or you're having a moochie.
Come here. Lay down. Don't knock that off. Sorry. You can just about see him. There he is.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something about FMCs.
frequency monitoring code.
Yeah, that's not. I don't think not everybody would know about what that is exactly.
So with the frequency monitoring code, they're designated for different airfields. So for Luton, get this correctly around, is 0013. For Stansted, it is 7013. So if you're listening out on Luton, but you don't want to talk to me because you think I'm scary, just put in 0013. And I know you are listening out. That way you'll get the Q&H and you get a feel for what's going on. You'll get the Q&H multiple times probably. So I know you're listening out. If I think you're going to get a little bit close to my airspace, like Paul's skimming the zone boundary.
Had I got a frequency monitoring code on there, you could have called me or not. Be slightly more happy the fact that I am there, but yeah, you could have easily just called me and said, "Would you mind?" Or
just be advised, right on the edge of Luton control zone, inbound traffic 600 feet above. At which point you've gone, the sky's disappeared as they've gone over the top of you.
Because that frequency monitoring code in that scenario is not the fix of the problem. The fix is for me not to fly that close in the first place, but take 200 foot off and 2 miles away, and maybe even use the FMC as well.
Yes.
And that really kind of helps things, or even better, just talk to you.
Just talk to me,
Yeah. So about the only time I've used frequency monitoring codes is if I've heard the frequency, I'm getting close to controlled airspace, but I've gone on their frequency. Oh my God, they're really busy.
Yeah.
The last thing you need is me jumping in there as well. I don't even want to transit through. So I might have used a frequency monitoring code just so that if I need to be called, I can be called. Two-way, but I'd normally always just have two-way.
You normally get airborne. So Paul lives off to the east of Luton, so he'll get airborne of a morning on a 0013 score because I've normally intercepted him first thing. Good morning, Paul.
Yeah.
If I have the time. So yes.
Yeah, that's quite handy, isn't it, to know that? Yeah, it's a really good thing to have brought out. But so a lot of people don't actually know what they are.
No. Again, if there's restricted airspace or anything like that, I can do a blind transmission. Just be advised, you may be close to restricted airspace or active gliding sites. I don't have to. But sometimes if I have the capability, I would rather you avoided the restricted airspace rather than infringe that or anything like that. But again, it's good for you to get situational awareness as well and hear what's going on. If it's a busy day and you don't want to talk to me, you might hear me talking to traffic around you. So that's building up your mental picture. There's a lot of stuff around Barkway or Britton's Park.
It's not busy. Should we speak to you anyway? I did this recently and I just thought, listen to it. It's it's very quiet. I wanted to say hello, but I thought, I don't
make sure I'm still there. You're welcome to call at any time.
For basic service, though. Oh yeah.
Sometimes you will get asked to contact or free call Farnborough, or depending what service you're looking for. But I'm happy if you're just sort of scooting around. Yes.
As instructors in the local area, if you're busy, would you prefer that way? Stay on with Farnborough, kind of scooting around.
All depending on how close you're going to get. If you want to service, Farnborough are brilliant. If you don't want to service, frequency monitoring code. Therefore, again, if anything happens, you can come in and call me if you have any kind of emergency or issue. That's fine because I will just suddenly spring into action. You have any kind of issue, I'll start taking the details.
I didn't think of this before, but sometimes Farnborough have gone off a little bit earlier, and I'm like, who should I speak to? And I've seen Luton, I've spoken to at the time, but it's just an option that I've forgotten about. But frequency monitoring would actually be quite helpful. Yeah.
For a period of time, we used to teach coming out of here. Our default was Luton, because Farnborough North for us became a bit of a victim of its own success.
They get very busy.
They get really busy, and then they can't easily provide you with the service that you're after. So on a busy day, we want a traffic service, but then they're too busy to be able to give the traffic service. So now you think, oh, great. So not Farnborough's fault. It's just like the M25. They're just very popular. So we're now flying around. It's busy. We can't get the service that we're after, and the radio's manic as well. And you're trying to concentrate on what you're doing. It's tough. So sometimes in the past we would have just defaulted to Luton, where it's suddenly much calmer, quieter, and you can give the capacity, give us the traffic service that we couldn't necessarily get from Farnborough. So we became a default, but ever since Luton got its own holds, then it made it a little bit more, a bit more busy.
Now the Luton airspace is expanded, where our world used to be basically 3 altitudes. We now have a hold off to the north, so we've got traffic coming in much higher level and the sequencing that goes on there. So whereas before, a few years ago, you would have got probably most services you requested because we're a lot quieter. Now our capacity, we have more traffic to deal with, and we have got busier as well into Luton.
So you don't have busy periods in the morning, and late in the day and very
It's
rush
not
hours.
the morning rotation.
Yeah.
They come in. If they turn up early, then yes. And depending what end we're in, 07. So that's the dog having a rummage. I just apologise for that.
It's not me or Amanda, honestly. Neither of us, if you can hear that. It's like pouring the floor. It's nothing under there. Oh, sorry.
My dog does that, Chewy. He tries to make a nest in the carpet. It doesn't work. Oh, bless him. They're now looking under the sofa. I do apologise.
I don't know what he's seen.
Did you have some pizza under it?
Get out of it. Move over.
Have you hidden your snack under there? It's like being at home.
There's literally nothing under there.
We'll let him have a rabbit.
No, you can't have any pizza if he is. God, dear. Yeah, so yeah, we used to always just pretty much jack out there, just straight away go to Luton. That'd be our first port of call, and if you're too busy, then we go to Farnborough. But stop it. Yeah, it does tend to be the other way around a little bit.
Yeah.
Because weirdly enough, well, so for us in training, we rarely ask for traffic service because quite often we're changing direction height so often.
That's when you're calling traffic and someone started to turn this traffic left or hello, now it's behind you.
So it's really difficult for you to work out, isn't it?
Tipping, yes.
So when we're on I think most people understand, but if we're on a traffic service, you'll do your best to warn us of traffic that could be a conflict. But the problem is, say, if we're in a dead straight line, same height, same speed, same heading, it's not too difficult to look ahead and work it out. But if we're zigzagging and up and down and PFLs and
making it difficult,
it's quite hard, isn't it?
It is. It's a lot harder again, especially once you've started your turn. And we're trying to call traffic if you're manoeuvring.
And we're obliged to kind of give you the heads up. We're about to make a change of direction or high.
So that's busier for you, yeah.
Yeah. So it's tricky. So in training, it's quite unless we're on a plain straightforward NavX, where we are just doing heading holes. But if we're just training steep turns and all sorts of things, traffic service. It's hard to run a basic service.
Before when you go to low level manoeuvres, Paul's let me know that they will be disappearing off my radar cover because there's nothing worse. Someone disappears. And they don't come back. We've had it with the policeman because of course they're going to go low level. But okay, he's gone. Where's he gone? Why is he not come back? So then we will try and call you just to make sure you're okay. But no.
So, but for flying, even just around here, experiences sort of show me that the days where you get hardly a close call in the air, but the days when you get a little bit closer to the traffic that you didn't spot can often be the days when there's not a lot around because. There's not a lot around, so your lookout might reduce a little bit because there's nothing around. Well, on the busy day, your eyes are permanently looking around for everything. So it's a bit ironic that it almost feels like some of the busier days we feel like we have less closer calls than the quieter days when we're not paying proper attention. Maybe when we could really do with a pair of eyes over us. So so the most common sort of services that we ask for is a basic service or a traffic service.
Okay.
So what's really the difference between the two?
Basic service, I don't actually have to identify you on a basic service. So some people, as a matter of course, this is just me, I will give a squawk, even if you request a basic service, because that helps me with my mental picture as to what's going on. And I know where everyone is. That's just how I operate. Basic service, you'll just get the pressure setting and I'll let you know if there's any sort of gliding activity at Dunstable. Traffic service, I will give you a squawk, I will identify you, check your mode Charlie, and then I will be giving you traffic. Depending on your current altitude, if you're say 1,500 feet, it may be a traffic service with reduced traffic information due to the base of radar cover. So I may not see traffic below you, but then on a traffic service, I will be calling traffic.
You're too busy. Not get that.
That's correct. To be negative, unable to give a traffic service, you control the workload.
You can downgrade it, can't you, as well, if you're on a traffic service. It's getting too busy. You can drop us back down to a basic.
We can do, yeah.
But on the flip side, I don't know if this is just being nice. Sometimes on a basic service, you personally or some and your colleagues as well will actually warn us of traffic, but they do remind us we're only on a basic service, of course.
So that's not normally a done thing, but again, at the end of the day, I have a duty of care. If I was to see someone that was going to step out into the road and something was going to happen, just because it's not my responsibility doesn't mean I'm not going to stop it. So in the air, duty of care. If I see it, I have the capacity. I will say it is a basic service. So there is no expectation of more traffic. But if I see traffic, 12 o'clock, same level, 1 mile that you may not have seen, I will advise that. Again, it's what I do. It isn't written down that we have to do this. Some people do not agree with it, but again, for my part, it is a duty of care. I couldn't.
And a mile for us out the windscreen, you see another aircraft a mile away. I mean, you can. Well, some people are barely managing to see it, but of course, on your screen, it's
like 1 mile is
barely
the same size as Luton. Again, as I said, 2 miles is about
nothing, is
an
there?
inch, yes. So the range I'm working on, it looks incredibly close. So that's the world that I operate in. And again, you look out the window, I can call something 5 miles. Go, what's she talking about? You probably can't see. And I'm thinking, because I have no real point of reference as to what you're seeing. And it's days like this, I get more of an understanding of what you're able to see, what you can't see, what's helpful, what isn't.
So, he's very helpful. So for us, we'll just say us in helicopters for a minute. For all the helis we fly, for the most part, we got an amazing field of view. I mean, we can see, depending on which one we're in, we can see right away from over our shoulder to right the way around to right over the other shoulder. So we only got a blind spot behind of that sort of thing. We can see up, possibly up to that angle. We can see, well, some of them have got windows down here for our feet. So you've been in the helicopters, haven't you? So on the 24. So we've got amazing field of view sort of thing. But what we struggle with, of course, is anything behind us, above us, behind us, below behind us.
Okay.
And to be honest, to a degree, anything below us is really hard to spot.
Okay.
Most aircraft blend in with the background, with the terrain, etc.
Yeah.
So we really find those difficult. Same level's not bad. Slightly higher becomes much easier because of the contrast of the sky. During daylight, virtually everything appears black in the sky, so it contrasts against the brighter sky. So that's helpful. Even a white aircraft will look dark.
Yeah.
If light levels are dim, where you see the lights, which is really useful. But anything from to the same level to below, that's it. They've gone. They've almost disappeared.
Stealth mode.
Literally had that today. Back Kerry Lanes, just before Northolt, there was another helicopter coming from Denham. And he said they were 200 feet below.
No, it's not a chance.
Yellow helicopter, and I was just like,
we've got things like it's not TCAS. We've got, I don't know if you guys online with the fly the big planes. You ever heard of things like Pilot Aware, Sky Echo, all these sorts of units? It's like if you like, a cheap version of TCAS. They're pretty good. They will look for things like FLARM, ADSB, TCAS, and they can put it onto a screen like an iPad, and we can see all you guys flying around the sky, heights, speeds, directions if we want. So it's very, very similar, but we can't say it's collision avoidance. It's just traffic awareness.
Okay.
So it's really useful, but it's not perfect, but it's pretty damn good sort of thing. But even like Dylan just said, the number of times we've seen an aircraft, it's there on our screen, it's literally opposite direction, 200 foot below. Do you think we can see it outside? Not a chance. And you can watch it on the screen fly past, and you'll look. And
so that explains why I call traffic, and I'm waiting for the call for visual.
You're thinking, it's there. You don't see it. Like, well, it's gone past you now. Look, anything below us can be horrific. Really difficult to spot. Really difficult.
So on radar, everything's so obvious. Again, it's just the worlds that we operate in. Yeah.
Especially if there's a perfect scenario, as the aircraft's moving and we're moving, it appears to be stationary in its background. That's really, if it moves and there's some light, we can sometimes catch it. But oh my god, it's like camouflage. It just blends in.
Wow.
Yeah, we can't see that.
Like the gliders, and I have this.
Yes.
Gliders. I was just flying along past East Midlands, and suddenly something appeared in my Pilot Aware. And what the hell's that? It's a glider. It's suddenly up there.
Wow.
So it's frightening.
Or they're in profile coming at you. They're so slim and slender. The Dunstable, you're telling us there's gliding going. I'm like, is there? I can't see anything. Yeah. Really? And then, oh my god, they turn and you see the underside of them. Oh, yeah, there they are. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're
hear you, but you can't see them.
That's right.
Which is quite reassuring. But no, I was having a conversation with Vicky up at Pat, and she was saying the one thing she's scared of is
it's hard to spot the gliders, and they're usually painted whites. They do blend in with the clouds and things there in the sun.
And well away from gliding sites as well.
Yeah,
they come straight into my that's constantly.
My first close shave with gliders, I was learning to fly. I was on a solo nav, and I was going to get a last service from Cottesmore. That's right, I remember now. And I was feeling quite big and brave. I'm like, look at this, I'm doing it. So I've got this traffic service. Well, it wasn't called a traffic service but I was getting a last service from radar information.
I'm showing my age now, yeah.
And this is good, isn't it? And then they warn me there's some traffic in 12 o'clock and whatever it was, 2 miles, and I'm kind of looking. Nah, I can't see anything. And they say, yeah, it's like 1 mile ahead of you now. Yeah, I can't see anything. And then the next thing, you got multiple contacts in your 12 o'clock, half a mile. I literally can't see a thing. There's nothing. I'm like, you sure? And the glides went past me like this. I just stayed still, and landing light on, and just did exactly this. Figuring they must be able to see me with a bit. Like, oh my god, they were like all past me. It was like a competition, a gliding competition. They were shot past me.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't see them until they literally going past me. So they're difficult for us to spot, without a doubt.
And they don't always paint on radar.
No, that's right. Yeah,
which is the other thing. Yeah.
Which kind of so one of the other questions that often gets asked about it is, for instance, why are we still using VHF? Why aren't we on digital?
I don't know. That's the answer.
I think I've got the answer, unless anybody definitely knows the answer. I think I've got the answer. Digital is great because it's really clear, unless the signal's not great, and then suddenly there's nothing you can do about it. It breaks.
Don't like the sound of that.
Like DAB. You know how you listen to a DAB station online, yes, it's beautiful and clear, and then it just goes.
Wow.
Especially around the villages.
It's like readability. If you go down to readability 3, you probably get nothing on digital.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the downside. Whereas VHF, it'd be really poor and crackly, but we can still hear it. Especially if our radio is set with I don't know what yours would be with squelch. You got squelch, so you can kind of cut things out.
So I don't have the power to override anything. Like, if I have any issues, I will call back to my group supervisor and I'll go, I've got an issue. Then engineering will come in.
Okay.
And they'll be all technical, and I'll go, have you fixed it? Yes. Have you fixed it? No. So yes,
So really weak transmissions. If we just press a button on ours, we can it's permanently we can hear the frequency permanently rather than cutting it out.
Okay.
For weak signals and things.
Yeah.
So you hear all the hiss and the crackle, but you can pick up on the really weak signals. Which means if we're a long way away, we can press the button, we can turn it up, and we can actually hear the station. If it's digital, we wouldn't be able to hear them.
Okay.
And so I think that's one of the reasons potentially why, and the whole getting everybody to change onto it.
Yes.
It was a big old thing, wasn't it? Just in our cars, etc.
Yes.
And TV and whatnot.
So that's about drones.
Oh yeah.
You're getting a lot more.
We have a lot of drone reports. We also have a lot of drones that have been approved. So I believe at Luton, I don't know if it's the airport authority, but sometimes we'll get a phone call where approval's been given for drones. It will go out on the ATIS, which is like the arrival information. So arrival information Yankee, landing runway 25, yada, yada, yada. And they may actually advise of drone activity, which is known, but it won't be in conflict with the inbound traffic. And it's normally capped at not about 400 feet. That's the known stuff. We do get unknown stuff. Of course, we report it. That gets reported back. The police are advised. A lot of time with drones, we can't see them either. Again, we have to advise the last reported position, keep the crews updated. But it's incredible how high some of these drones will go now.
Was it 20,000 foot that one got reported once? I think
12,000 that hit 12,000 about 4 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I remember
months ago. Yes. Multiple times. But the thing is, they share it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And you've now just illustrated the fact you're above inbound traffic or that kind of thing. So
they've become incredibly capable, haven't they? So the ones that are doing it all properly, they've got an ADSB signal output and all various things, and they've notified and gone through the proper channels, haven't they?
Again, there's channels to go through. I would just get advised of a potential drone activity that is known, it has been approved, and everyone's happy.
My understanding now, if you go and buy one out of a shop, they're sort of geo-fenced, aren't they, etc. Restricted, so you couldn't possibly just make it fly out the box into Luton's airspace.
Not out the box, no.
Wouldn't let you, but unfortunately.
Some people have ways of.
There's a few tweaks, isn't there, or some really cheap ones that aren't. I don't know if it's a legal requirement them to be that sort of restricted, geo-fenced, etc. But
I'd have to check the drone code and the CA guide.
There's still some that can easily do that, aren't there?
Which is always concerning. That and lasers. People with lasers, lasers in aircraft, big old no, but it happens regularly.
Is it?
Yeah. I think most night shifts we have laser reports.
Most night shifts?
Most night shifts, yeah.
Well, I didn't realise it was that regular.
Yeah. You'll hear someone shout laser, and you think, okay, the supervisor will come across. Position, report, colour. They've shone at the police helicopter, we've all seen that. Of course, the police will now have someone at your front door within about 20 minutes because they can pinpoint you. It is very obvious.
Pretty good now, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. I guess it happens to airlines when they're coming into land as well.
Yeah, we had it I don't know where it stands to Luton. Again, when traffic's running in the circuit, clear day. Someone was saying it's normally sort of around about school holidays times or clear Christmas, that kind of thing.
I was going to say, I'd like to think, might be a bit naive. I'd like to think that the probably the kids that are doing it don't realise exactly what can happen. They might just think it's funny they can point the laser at a plane or a helicopter. They don't realise.
People of all ages. I think there was prosecution of some. I don't know if in the 30s or 40s doing it to aircraft.
Could be people that are fed up with the noise. Oh, I'll teach them. And
absolutely anything.
They don't realise it can, if it hits the screen at the right angle, it refracts inside. Your screen literally turns the colour of the laser.
Oh, we also check with crews. Has there been any injuries?
Yep.
Has anyone on board been hurt again with eyesight?
Yeah, eye injuries. Yeah. And even little laser pens are that powerful. Aren't they, little laser pointers?
Yes.
I've got it. Yeah, I didn't realise it was that often.
It happens. It's a regular thing. Yeah.
Is it increasing?
I couldn't actually tell you. From the reports I hear, I'd say yes, but that is just from what I could just be on the shifts where all the lasers get reported, you know what I mean? I might just be one of those people that attract it. But I believe it is, but again, without checking the reports and the statistics, I can't even say it. I couldn't tell you.
You say conspicuous.
I can say conspicuity till the cows come home, yeah.
It took a while, didn't it, to kind of get used to that.
Trying to get conspicuity out when you're busy, yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know who it was, but the reasoning behind it is, you'll probably know. I used to say Squawk 7000 free call on route, but 7000 would mean you're flying VFR. 2000 is the IFR conspicuity, so I can't specify Squawk 7000 if you're not VFR and you're IFR. So that is where I believe that would have come from.
I can only assume either somebody foresaw that there'll be a problem, or somebody's been told to Squawk 7000 their IFR, or mistriggered it.
Yes.
So instead of having a nice easy word, it's conspicuity.
Conspicuity, yes.
It's actually not that difficult unless you fly. And then
it's only difficult if you're busy and you're thinking, don't fluff it, don't fluff it. And
You don't say free call conspicuity, do you? You say free call en route. It's like,
So Squawk conspicuity. John, we're doing our free call en route.
Conspicuity and free call en route. Yes, it's quite a tongue twister, isn't it?
Yeah. But
yeah, that came back that's quite a long time ago now, wasn't it?
It's been a few years now. Yeah.
It was funny when it first changed over. Trying to hear everybody saying, "Oh, yeah."
What 7,000?
Just do 7,000. Yeah. Good.
This time, I remember you making contact with us was when you were watching one of our students do their qualifying cross country.
Okay.
And you picked them up, presumably around Oxford area.
Yeah.
Which probably you must have been on Luton, I would guess.
Probably would have been, yeah.
Yeah, and then you followed them around the road.
Yeah.
Just because you were either just on a very quiet day perhaps, or you just kept your eye on them.
After COVID, it took a long time for sort of all the IFR, I call it IFR traffic, it's the airliners to all sort of come back and
wasn't it?
It was. I remember being sat on radar in the middle of COVID, and the only aircraft over the entire UK was one police helicopter. That was it. And it was so eerie.
Was it Luton that was doing ILS approaches for £1 or or free or I can't remember, one of the major airports was, I remember Southend was doing it, I think just purely for the air traffic controllers to have some
currency,
some currency.
I know it's
almost, please, come and have an approach or something. Yeah.
So I know it stands to, I think it was some Ryanair aircraft. I think it was a Boeing thing. They had to be, I couldn't tell you the technicalities, but I don't know if they had to be moved every so often or flown every so often. So as restrictions lifted slightly, they would just do circuits for currency.
Oh, remember David saying about the Embraers? He was telling us about that, wasn't he? I'm sure he was. At City Airport, and they had to be moved on a regular basis, so they'd just go off and fly some circuit.
Yeah, so
we
you do a circuit, then I don't know if the crew would change or if it was the aircraft that would change, but the crew would stay.
That's right. I remember him saying about that.
So doing radar circuits for a 7.3, you're thinking it's not something you've done in forever. But yeah, so everything was just.
I seem to remember, but just when we finally started to get to fly, I think we even got asked if we could go on to certain frequencies because control of practice, etc. Because just the lack of
all trying to keep it going. We were all still working, people were furloughed, but of course the airspace was still open. and it was GA that were the first to come back. And I remember talking to a microlight, and he said, "Can I come into Stansted?" I said, "Well, talk this." Negative transpond. I thought, okay, we're going to go for the turn method here. Good old school way of identifying. So advise your heading on a current track. Turn left 30 degrees. You're identified. Rang Stansted Tower. Microlight wants to come in, have a look-see. Any objections? Negative. They had nothing. Go to the tower. He said, "Any chance to go and speak to Heathrow Special? I'm going to London City Zone. Stand by." Rang Thames and Special. "I've got a microlight that wants to come in. Have you got anything to affect?" "No." So radar identified, gave him across the city, and off he went. I think he went into the Gatwick zone as well that day. Yeah,
they were like a
yeah. Don't have the integration of traffic, and they were living their best. It's, again, because the GA community were the first ones to get airborne again.
Bizarre.
And as soon as the IFR, the airlines came back, it was, "Oh, we can't do it. No, we're busy." "Oh,
yeah,
last week. Oh, things are going
changed.
on. Sorry." So yes,
And go around, yeah, they were the common thing. Gatwick was doing them, and
I believe Gatwick were, yes.
Oh, were they? Gatwick were doing.
yeah. So basically, as long as you didn't touch the runway, otherwise you would have got the £5,000 landing.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember some of the airports were.
I heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so Southend, Gatwick. Yeah, just to get the practice on. Just because it's
again, just to remember how to talk to things.
Bizarre,
again, back
isn't
to
it?
RT. It's,
Yeah.
And I know a lot of the RT became a little bit more lax because there wasn't much on frequency. So as controllers, we're always checked on our RT. We will have an RT sample done once every 12 months. So they will pull a random section in time and say, "What did Amanda do in this 30 minutes? Okay, did I use my station ident? Was everything read back correctly?"
Oh, I see. Yeah, so they'll look at the recording, or listen to the recording.
Yes, that is why we always may sound a little bit intimidating, because we keep everything by the book. So we're going to be checked at some random period in time by our assessor to make sure we're doing everything correctly. Have I rung the tower and used my ident, full call signs, all these things? Have I checked? Have I given headings with a 0 added degrees just to miss any ambiguity, anything like that? So there's so much in there. So yes.
Does it take for you to do the full course to get to where you are?
So we are going back 20 years. So I believe it's changed now. For me to go through the college, I did both aerodrome and approach radar. So I have a tower rating, which is now lapsed, which I've never validated, which is a shame because I wanted Windows. I wanted to go to a tower, so they sent me to radar. So I ended up at West Drayton. So that was a year. Then it was probably about 18 months on unit. Yeah.
To go through.
I don't know what it is now. Again, I'm that far detached, and I don't actually train because I.
Oh, I was just about to ask that. Yeah, so
No,
I want to ask
I
you.
couldn't sit behind and watch someone else do it. I do too much. So yes, so I don't train.
Yeah, because you can. It's often we can tell on frequency if somebody's training. Yeah, because they do quite well, and then suddenly there's a pause, and
Yes.
sort of standby. And you think, all right, they're being told what to say, and then they come back to you, or the next thing there's a change of voice.
This is not true.
Yeah,
That's
that's it. Yeah, we start getting a little bit, a little bit busier, those sort of things.
But we've all done it. My first live sort of part of RT, I did 6 weeks at Stansted Tower. So I did on-the-job training during the aerodrome course. So I did 6 weeks at Stansted Tower. And I remember this FedEx asking for a clearance. And you're cleared to Memphis on a buzzard 1 Sierra, will say. Gave him the clearance. I couldn't remember what it was now. And he said, "Can you spell that?" I forgot my phonetics. I went, "Yeah, BUZAD." And you could hear them laughing. I'm thinking, oh. So it's easily done.
Oh, you should have said.
No, they just laughed at me and went, "Roger, yeah, okay, thank you for humouring me." So again, we've all done it. We forget what we're going to say. We've stopped halfway through, or you're thinking about what you're going to do next. So it is easily done.
Do you ever have any like funny like sugar is the Sierra and
I've had someone
What's
request
that?
a scent before. I think I was saying to Tony earlier, requesting a scent. You're requesting what? Requesting a scent. I said, you want to go up, you want to climb AFM. So that's called climb. You're wanting, we have climb and descend. We don't ascend, we climb. And some people go over at the end of the transmission. Oh no, I think no, over. I think, okay. So that's one strange thing we occasionally have.
I've got a quick one. Sorry. So in terms of the RT, obviously we fly to a lot of places like, I don't know, Southeastern Europe, Middle East, etc. And I mean, for non-native English speakers, obviously there's a lot of non-standard RT in it. Even sometimes in the UK, things like, you know, when the controller says, "I'll stand by," a lot of pilots actually respond standing by when you're not supposed to, when it's just supposed to be dead silence. That's the point, to save time. Is there anything from your side that we can learn from you that, I don't know, frustrates you a little bit, for example, in RT, or pilots using certain RT that oh, he doesn't need to say this, or why does he say that, or something that we can pick up from you, something that's, I don't know, common?
So it's not anything that particularly do. One thing I've noticed since coming back from COVID, I'm expected to be Siri. I'm not voice recognition. So when people stop using their call signs, so I say contact director, or we'd go 1, 2, 3, contact director, go to director. Oh, who read that back? Or Rhino 1, 2, 3. You'll give someone, I'm using the call sign, contact director, bye, is all I get. I think, oh, no, I need a read back. I need a call sign. So, but there's nothing inherently that irks me. Again, it's just, if I don't get the information I need, I'm coming in again to get it. So call sign, frequency change. But again, just the mandatory read back items. Again, Roger isn't a read back. Some people believe it is, but when I've given an altitude change or the QNH, but no, mainly call sign. If you can give me a call sign, I'm happy.
Yeah, because otherwise it might, all the best will in the world, they might think, of course it's me saying goodbye, but you need to be certain somebody else didn't mishear that, and
or someone's taken someone else's call because they might have been that call sign the day before. Again, we're coming to the end of a busy summer. It's just a matter of always checking and double checking. I know if I get something, if I don't hear something from yourselves, I'll ask again. You're going, why is she asking again? I missed it. I missed the arrival information or something like that, or if I missed the read back of the QNH. Again, it's one of those things, if in doubt, ask. If you don't hear anything, ask. Same for you guys. If in doubt, ask. Even if I have to tell you 3 times, I'll do it. I don't mind. I'd rather you ask than make it up, you know, or read back what you think you heard rather than what was actually given. So yeah, but no, again, just call sign.
I've asked you this before, we spoke about this, but I'll do it anyway for everybody else. So we, although it's not in the good old Cat 413 manual, we quite often use helicopter before our call sign.
I've noticed.
Is that helpful for you in any way, shape, or form?
On first call, yes. When you, because you can edit it down, can't you, from the ground at Elstree? So you call yourself helicopter, then do you use the last 2 letters?
Yeah, quite often. That's right. We end up, because it can, for Elstree, my God, it can get busy. I mean, really busy when it's in full swing and the radio's constant. So you're trying to find the gap, and it's, anyway, so
fast,
so we end up being, we even say heli, you know, heli, and then the last letter, so heli Zulu Zulu, just to keep it as short as possible without rushing the call, sort of thing. But certainly for smaller airfields, quite often it's really useful they find for us to say helicopter for the call sign, because chances are we're going to depart or join in a completely different way to the plane. So for instance, in all the years I've flown, I think I might have only ever done 1 overhead join in all those years, because it's just so unusual for us to do that. We are always coming in low level at different angles, and we often don't need to use a runway and so forth. So by sticking helicopter in front of the call sign, straight away the controller or the person on the radio knows the chances are we're going to be doing things differently, and it's very helpful for them. But I've always wondered, I certainly know the answer, but I've always wondered, for bigger places, air traffic control, does that help in any way, shape, or form?
So for me, first call, yes, it does, because sometimes you'll hear an aircraft title, oh, are you fixed wing or rotary? Is sometimes because you hear all kinds of things. But for me, it's helpful on first call, but then again, just using call sign after that, or the abbreviated call sign.
You're really good at not managing to say it back to us.
It's because it's something I'd never heard until I came here for the first time. So I didn't realise you did it.
Yeah, and we hear it a lot, actually. There's I won't say the registration. There's a 109 that often goes past in the morning. I quite often hear, and he always says helicopter as well. Helicopter,
I think, so again, with the registrations, again, like whether it be the 109, the S76, again, different sizes and everything. But weirdly, we start to recognise registrations and call signs. So you almost, I've learnt after all these years what type some people are. But no, it is helpful for helicopters because we know you can also reduce your speed rather than have to go into an orbit.
Just going to say it probably helps because we can just back right off.
Because you're medical, so can you reduce your speed inbound traffic 3 knots?
No we're back at sort of 40 knots, just popping along.
Yes,
at a little headwind, and we're virtually stationary, aren't we?
We can tell when it's best. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, but there are. I was saying, on the flip side, best speed is not great.
No.
You know, if you're in the 22, that's about 90 knots.
So again,
so that's with the tailwind. So yeah, if we've got a headwind, you're lucky if you're going to get 60, 70 ground speed out of us.
So
that makes suddenly a big difference.
Yes. So I always work with indicated airspeeds on. That helps me, so I can see if speed instructions. This is just an Amandaism where the speeds are being adhered to. But also, if you put the indicated airspeed on the ground speed, if you're doing say 80 knots indicated, but you've got a headwind, you could be doing 40. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, are they actually moving? The little trail dots on my radar. I'm thinking, okay. So that's one thing I can use as a judgment call. And I also have something called global vectors. They're like little lightsabers that come out the front of the aircraft, out the trail dots. So I've got the contact and I can put global vectors on. And I can set that to 1 minute through to 10 minutes or 10 miles. So I can see where you're going to be in 3 minutes. I normally have mine set to 3. So this is another thing I use. You might hear me clicking away in the background. Requesting transit, Roger. So I've got inbound traffic. Are you going to get there ahead of them? Yes or no? If it's yes, I'll go straight in with the clearance, bring the tower, contact tower for normal clearance.
You're using those little global vectors, aren't you?
I'm using the global vectors, yes.
We have things exactly the same on ours. It shows 2, 5 and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So it shows where we're going to be in those their current pace. Yeah.
So that's what I do. If I think you're going to be level pegging, dog's back. If you're going to be level pegging with inbound traffic, so route height, expect to hold maybe a short delay. So you've got situational awareness, and you know that I have actually been checking speeds and how far you're going to go in that time.
Okay, so that's useful to know. So if you're heading towards, you've asked for a clearance, you haven't put it yet.
Yes.
And you're getting close to the boundary.
Yeah.
But you haven't got the clearance yet, and you start backing off speed of that.
So we will notice that.
Yeah.
If the key for transit is to give us plenty of time. The amount of traffic that's called on the zone boundary for transit and not been too appreciative when it's been a negative, you've called right on the zone boundary. You want a clearance, so I've now got to issue a clearance. I've got to speak to the tower. I'm taking into account inbound traffic. There's a lot of work to be done.
So I think from our side, or people don't, the pilot side, they don't realise what it involves. No. They think it's just all you've got to do is say you're cleared to enter, basically. But there's a bit more to it, isn't there? Especially say if we've asked if we can go via the ATZ. By the threshold, there's a bit more involved, isn't there?
And totally, a tower busy. Does the tower have anything outbound? They might have an outbound helicopter coming the other way, so that's traffic. All these things that go into it.
I've got a good story. So when I'm sorry,
I was going to say, going back to your heli point, that call sign, when I'm coming in on runway 26 here, and enough problems with Elstree as it is coming in because it's so complicated. Like, say if you're at the golf course or the big town, you hear heli, whatever. It's wonderful to hear that because you know that to the right, if you're coming on 26, you're coming in on this approach from the side. So we have a go around the one thing, we know exactly. There's a helicopter in the circuit as opposed to just a registration. So,
as we always teaching our students, and say, imagine you've got in the fixed wing, there's a solo student, their first solo, they've just turned final. If we go on the radio and say just simply, for instance, Golf Zulu final, the poor solo student might go, oh my God, where are they? But if we said the helicopter, then we wouldn't normally say the couple of helicopters on final north side grass, hopefully they've been taught, don't worry, they're over there, going to be separate from you. You might see them in a minute a bit higher. And so it helps really. It's really handy for airfields when we tell them we're in helicopter, just so they understand we'll probably be separated differently and flying in low level, whatever it might be. Can be quite handy.
The circuits here are so light, they're not standard.
It's quite tricky, isn't it? As is really tight. Gosh, we fly a circuit in about 6 minutes, 3 to 6 minutes. We've got a circuit which is tight for us. It's very short. That's flying quite slowly.
Go over the graveyard because we don't get too many complaints from
Oh dear. Somebody told me once it's the dead centre of Watford.
Oh,
hey, sorry. Awful. Yeah. Oh yeah, my lovely wife gets another hour of me in the car with the jokes. She's hoping I'll lose my voice by then. Yes, I was going to. A quick story. It was a while ago, last year, 2 years ago. Anyway, I'm with. I think I was with Beth. That's right. We wanted to do a couple of zone transits. I think we actually want to go through Luton, and then we're going to head off through Stansted. No, I think we just want to go through Luton. Yeah, south to north, then probably turn around and come back again for the practice.
Okay, yeah.
And there's me kind of giving it all the big we never get refused, don't worry. Literally, it'd be absolutely fine sort of thing.
Well, you've jinxed it.
we changed frequency, and it all seems quiet. We've gone on for a zone transit. Amanda's on the radio as well. Oh, brilliant, you know.
Oh dear.
And she's got a quite sort of stern voice on things and stuff. And it's not
very assertive, yeah.
And at that point, it's sort of like a negative. I think it's like, wait, this is rare. This is very odd. And I sort of said, oh, okay. Damn it, that's really thrown this exercise out. We're in quite an expensive aircraft up in the air, and we now can't do what we wanted to go and do. Wonder if we can negotiate this, you know, and so forth. But it quickly picked up on. I think you were on at the time. I'm sure it was you. It was the day when, quote me if I'm wrong, one end of Luton it was pouring with rain, and the other end was absolutely fine. And I think you were having to land the aircraft in the opposite direction for the departing aircraft because the other engines just know where they could fly through it. The bird was so poor. But
okay,
I think it was on the west it was really poor, but the east was clear.
Okay.
Something it was along those lines. But
that sounds familiar. So
it's either a year, 2 years ago, probably something like that.
So it was going to be one in, one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was, and the workload was high, and I suddenly realised that when we first went on the frequency, it's all lovely and serene and quiet.
Yeah.
You know, crystal clear. We could see for miles. There's a bit of rain over there. I'm sure it's not affecting anybody, and we didn't realise. Oh my god,
airfield,
the poor Luton. Yeah, it was. But you actually let us get in. We couldn't. You didn't let us do a VADA threshold, and of course at that point I realised no, there's just no way. But you let us go up to, for instance, I think it might have been Hyde, and then across to sort of Kimpton, and then eastbound out staying south of Stevenage, so we wouldn't affect your inbound. So even then, you still accommodated what we wanted to do. And then I think we went and annoyed Stansted after that.
I think, it's a matter of making it work when things like that happen. Again,
I was quite impressed because I think you've got a lot of work going on here. You're trying to get these aircraft in and out.
Yes.
It sounded like they were coming in one way and arriving via the east and departing to the east, because the west was a no-go because of the storm or whatever it was.
That rarely happens because the workload involved of again a full runway change. And again the crew situation awareness. You think, well, once it's landed on 25, why is one departing 07? Yeah.
But yes, we still even got our zone transit. It's amazing. Yeah. So it just shows you.
Traffic are lovely.
That's the other thing I've often taught people, our students, is it sounds awful, negotiate, because sometimes actually what we're asking can't be done, but actually, you know, if we just, well, can we do this then? And
is there an alternative? Yes, is there something else?
And often we've sort of said that we're also training, which sort of hopefully shows, you know, that we've got an instructor on board that with a bit of luck does know what they're doing.
Yes.
But we're trying to achieve something. It's not just a random, can we just sort of buzz through the airspace?
Can we come and play? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've had it in the past where the radio has been quiet and I didn't realise it was I think it was a fixed wing training flight, and I gave a clearance and the instructor came on and said, "Are you busy, Luton?" Negative. He said, "I've got a trainee on board, a student. Can you read that clearance back again?" I said, "Of course I can." So like we're doing here, I went through the structure of the clearance and the order that I give it, what to expect. So if you do it a couple of times, it kind of takes the edge off it because you know what to expect. And most controllers will give it in the same format. So you've got the expectation there. And to be able to slow it down for a student as well is really, really helpful. Again, days like this, perfect. You can ask me questions. Whereas on the radio, you're on for a short period of time. It's normally busy. We don't always have the capacity to be able to answer any questions that you may have. Because, of course, if everyone was asking a question, we wouldn't get anything on the ground. You know what I mean? So days like this are absolutely invaluable.
We've done a training sortie in the past. Want to go from with the student south to north and then north to south.
Yeah.
So the student gets 2 goes at it. I thought it's all clear. Then when we transited through, the student sort of done the call over again, and the controller, I don't think it's you in this case, but the controllers come on and literally just give them a clear straight through. It's like, no, I want you to make them go through all the hoops again. It's I've had to go back on the radio. Sorry to be a pain, but could you just sort of treat it as if this is their first time of calling, so they get the practice, and then they say, oh yeah, of course, no problem.
Even if you just come in and say for training.
Yeah.
So yes, as you said,
it's almost like an exam call sign, isn't it? You kind of, you know what we're up to.
You know, an exam call sign, everything is by the book, and you're making sure you maybe are a lot more articulate. You don't give, normally we'll give 2 instructions and a bit of information is the maximum that we're advised to give, because you're giving a lot of information.
And presumably try and let them do what they want to do because they're on test.
Yes. I don't want to throw any curveballs unless it's needed for safety. And then, of course, I will do what's required. But yeah.
Now, we're sort of, it's 8 o'clock. It's incredible.
So I can talk, sorry.
It's all right. No, yeah, it's I find it fascinating. It's great to be able to talk to you. So to be able to talk to you in this sort of capacity, it's quite nice.
And you have your pizza.
Now you've also been incredibly good and helped things like some of our students sometimes when they're out on a solo.
Yes.
Giving them a little bit of navigational assistance, because that's something you can do, isn't it?
Yeah.
They don't have to call 121.5.
No, always happy to help. If anyone's unsure of their location, I can advise them. Also flying into Sun. I've had traffic that was going to Panshanger. Of course, Panshanger's not been there for a long time. But they were lost. They called me. I gave them positions. I advised adjacent units. And they were very close to Panshanger. I said, do you want to contact Panshanger now? No. I want to stay with you. And I rang Panshanger and they weren't very polite to me. And I said, there's no reason to be rude to me. Again, this aircraft's lost. Because normally you ring a small airfield when something's gone wrong. And I think they thought I was...
Oh, they thought you were probably having a go. Or...
Yeah.
And actually, you're saying, by the way, you've got somebody
I've got one of yours. They're lost. Just be gentle with them. So just help me. Can you see Panshanger? No. Can you see it now? Yes. Are you happy to free call Panshanger? Yes. I said they are expecting you. So on that occasion,
very helpful.
Yeah.
After the one they're not here tonight. The student I'm thinking of, they were coming back from Tur Western, which generally speaking is more or less southbound.
Yes.
Because we tend to go down to Princess Risborough and then to that area.
Yeah.
And then eastbound. And I think you went on the radio. I said, "You are returning to Elstree, aren't you?" And they're like, "Hi, firm.
Are you sure you're not?"
Yeah, are you sure? Hey, I'm firm. Heading east at the moment. Am I?
Trying to sweep you around a whisk.
I think you might have even given them a zone transit through. I think because they've gone a little bit too far east, and then they're southbound, which would mean they go through that western edge. And
on the student,
I think you literally given them the zone transit. You know.
See, we are there to help. Just because things don't go according to plan doesn't mean that we can't help you. We're not looking to try and catch people out. Like, I'm going to let you run till you infringe, and I'm going to file on you. No, that's not how it works.
This student, by the way, is the same one that when they finished said, "Thank you, I love you." Yeah, it was a long time ago, but it was funny. He got talked back round and handed back over to Elstree.
And that's the thing, is you need to make sure that everyone, it's safety. It's always safety.
It must be very scary if something is going really wrong, especially for a student.
Yeah.
In a car, you can pull over.
What shall I do? I need to speak to somebody like now.
And it's, as I said, we're there to help. And if I can ring Elstree and just say they might have got a little bit lost, they might be a little bit shaken. So all this is going on behind the scenes. There's not kind of being seen, but we've got phone lines to everyone. We can pass anything on if anyone's unsure of anything.
I was amazed about the 121.5 section of NATS at Swanwick, because it's actually a room cut off from the rest of the building, and
they're on the other side. They've got their own little cozy bit in D&D.
They're the nicest cut. Well, everyone's wonderful there, but it's just extraordinary that this 121.5 office exists, and they've got their screens. And they're really friendly. And
the technology they've got is absolutely incredible.
Good,
direction finding, again, people meowing on 121.5, they will have you pinpointed. You know what I mean? They know where you are.
Really impressive.
Yeah.
So when they get bored, is that when they get you guys to call out?
We sometimes, it's more Farnborough that does it, but we often get asked if anybody's training or got a spare time, can you give 121.5 a call and do a practice plan? Because again, they're either they just have to have no action, so they need that, or they're training somebody. So they want us to do some practice plans. If we've got the capacity. It typically comes from Farnborough normally, or even Elstree's done it before now. Broadcast, if anybody's in the local area, can they call 121.5?
At which point 121.5 is now mobbed.
That's right. Everyone's gone onto it.
2 stations at once.
And we were talking earlier before going online with everybody, and hopefully over the years we've done quite a good job of encouraging new pilots to not be scared of air traffic control. That's not how I start off a radio briefing. I wouldn't say, right, air traffic control very scary. However, I did completely the opposite. So no, you know, I like flying through controlled airspace. It's much easier. The radio's usually far quieter, calmer, more professional, and they can see you on radar. It's brilliant, you know. And,
we see everything.
I think in the past, even I was, by one instructor, was taught. I was very good, you know. One of my main instructor, or one instructor I flew the most, was very, very precise in everything he did. So transponder was always on. If it had, we weren't really mode Sierra then, but mode Charlie, you always put it around there, etc., no matter what you were doing.
Yeah.
And I did this one day with one instructor. Like, what are you doing? Turn the transport. Don't turn that on. Put it on standby. They'll see you. And it's like, what? Oh yeah, and that was commonplace. It was.
I know it
keep
used
the
to
transponder on standby or off because they will see you. It's like I thought that was the whole point.
Yes.
No, because if you bust airspace, they will see you. And I was thinking, well, how about we don't bust airspace in the first place? Yeah, but that was regularly taught, which is why, you know, most people are flying around with transponders there, but on standby.
But now is it a legal requirement if you have a serviceable transponder, it has to be switched on?
Certain airspace, but Class G, no, you can still fly around Class G.
It's interesting.
With it off.
Oh, I thought.
Fly past you, you're like.
Yep, we still get aircraft around here in this busy airspace. Almost, it's pretty much the busiest bit of airspace, open airspace, certainly in the UK, uncontrolled airspace.
Okay.
And we still see stuff past us, don't we?
Wow.
Don't appear whatsoever. No ADSB, no nothing.
I want a fighting chance because you see how busy it gets.
Yeah, it can be really busy around.
Especially sort of around the Westcott area on a sunny day.
Oh gosh, yeah, love.
Out of Cranfield, out of Oxford, out of places off my radar display.
Denham, Whitewater, Wickham, Oxford, Cranfield. They're all heading for Westcott, aren't they? Around that area, yeah. Pardon? Yeah, they're making a beeline. It's like Bovingdon round here is a bit of a. We have to steer clear of Bovingdon because that's
that can get
POI.
busy.
Yeah.
It's kind of all or nothing. But then, of course, for our radar displays, you start garbling with the traffic above because when radar labels start to cross over, you get garbling. So sometimes if I'm giving a traffic service, they'll say, "Can you confirm the altitude of that traffic again?" I'll say it's garbling with other traffic, so I can't necessarily see it until it comes out the other side. So
yeah, we tend to avoid Bovingdon like the plague where possible on a busy day, because you know there's a whole load of planes all flying for it, all on, you know, all practicing.
When I first joined, when I was supposed to do advanced orders, I wanted some more airspace. So I went out towards Elstree. Always like, oh, where did you go? And I was like, someplace I'm never going to go again. Advanced orders, just because.
Yeah, on a nice day, everybody goes out there.
Just
Aylesbury Vale.
You behind you, and I was like,
yes. Would you like to climb to controlled airspace? Safer, probably safer. Again, around Stapleford and North Weald on a busy day because their circuits are so close together.
Yeah, very busy. Yeah, we've got our own little. You probably see it all the time. We just go out to the east of here.
Yes,
there's an area there just south of the M25. For the most part, there's no high obstacles on wires and whatnot, and for the most part, everybody flying past uses the M25, so we're clear of it. That's quite a good little area.
Don't tell everyone.
I know. The trouble is, they spot that. They'll go out there for it.
You're going to have friends next time you go there,
Any last questions for Man before we let her drive all the way home?
Yeah.
Long old drive back down that way.
With enough charge, hopefully, in the car.
Yeah.
Do you have a filter for when you say you look at your radar? It was one of the first things you said around. Can you filter and just go, I only want to see my 7013 traffic or anything like that?
We can filter in various squawks. Again, I keep everything, all traffic is always filtered in on my main radar display because I want to see everything. I do put a height filter in, which is normally for me on Luton, I'll put in flight level 175. So anything above that will get filtered out. Otherwise, I get all the high level transits working AC at flight level 320 and that kind of thing, or scooting through. For the long range, if I'm looking for someone, for whatever reason, there's traffic coming in that London are going to transfer to me, I can look for their squawk and put that in. But I normally have all the Luton squawks filtered in as well. So if I can't, where are you? Where's the 467? I'm looking around and it's 80 miles away or something crazy. Oh, okay. Therefore, I can see it quickly because sometimes everything isn't in the place you expect it to be because people aren't always where they think they are.
Oh,
so,
if I could, how many screens do you have?
I have
normally
Wow.
Actual separate screens showing different radars or what? Different layouts.
So I have my main radar display in front of me. I have the Luton Airfield weather and my departure screen off to my left. I have a long range display above that, which is like a computer screen filtered in with the Luton traffic. Off to the right hand side, we have another radar display next to me. They also have a weather display, which I have set for the Stansted departures, because sometimes the integration of the Luton traffic with the Stansted, so that's an awareness I have. If I'm looking to be high, I will coordinate with Stansted. And above that, there is a CCTV display, which we have set. One half is Stansted, one half is Luton. So again, with the new airspace and the potential integration, if I want to do anything different or anything non-standard outside my procedures, I will look and see what aircraft is released into Stansted, to which stacks. Again, is it advisable for me to look for a different routing for my inbounds, yes or no? So I've got an awareness of the Stansted traffic. I know there's a lot there. I've got my radar display and my Luton arrivals, so I can see all that.
And a question that crops up in the exams that people always ask about is, what do they mean by primary and secondary display? Does that mean like this is the primary and that's the secondary, or is it all on one screen? So I don't know if you might not know that. What it's asking about is primary and secondary contacts.
Okay,
so SSR and those sort of primary and SSR, that sort of stuff. So what does it mean by primary?
So primary to me is just just a little cross. I've got no squawk showing. I've got no altitude. I've got nothing.
Literally just a radar return, isn't it?
One. I referred to it years and years ago as an angel. And this I was queried by an EC. Did you just say an angel? So it was just like a radar, a clutter return. It was weather. So of course, never use that again. So again, primary is just one cross. For secondary, you have got the cross and the star, and you're showing with mode alpha and mode Charlie. So most of the time you've got squawk.
I see you get the alpha transponder then, don't you? And that's, but it's the way it's worded in the exam. Do you remember this in the PPL days? It's quite confusing because it sounds like it's a primary display and a secondary display like this, and they kind of like, I don't know what they see on which and what. It's like, no, it's all on the same one. It's just it's how it's
a primary contact.
Primary contact or secondary, yes, that's it. All to do with that. That sometimes crops up.
See, I'd query that. That's bad wording in my book. Sorry.
Don't get us started on that. Yeah, bad wording. Tony will have a few things, isn't there? You've had a few bad worded questions lately, haven't you? Yes.
Anything else?
Yeah.
No, you're very welcome.
Yes.
Again, it was lovely to come up and actually see real aircraft. I went past Heathrow and I was pointing. So yes, again, I don't normally get anywhere close to the London TMA as a matter of course. So no, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming, Amanda. Yeah, lovely to see you again. Thank you everybody for joining us online. Hope that was helpful, and it's nice if you to actually meet Amanda rather than just the voice coming over the radio.
Thanks for coming and looking forward to it.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
I found that helpful when I was loading for flight to go up a tower and actually meet the people on the radio.
We never normally look like our voices. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
We're never normally what you expect. Someone thought I was in my 40s about 20 years ago. But no, you're very welcome. Again, thank you for letting me come and play.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Guys. Take care. Speak to you later.
Take care. Safe drive.
Thank you.